An exclusive report just dropped over on the Daily Mail. Joe Biden could be embroiled in the FBI probe into Hunter's finances, experts say. Emails reveal they shared bank accounts and they paid each other's bills. And wow, that's a huge red flag, especially if Hunter Biden is doing deals and he's being flown out on Air Force to buy his dad to China for private equity and they share a bank account. Yikes. Now, I don't know the full details of what's going on between their bank account. Maybe they got something worked out. Maybe there's an entity that actually controls the account and then they just both have access. But either way, if they're using the money interchangeably, then yeah, the big guy's getting kickbacks on his son's deals. More and more information is coming out. We're seeing photos of Joe Biden meeting with Hunter Biden's partners. The lies are just unraveling. I think most of us realize it. Most of us knew the story before we even got to this point. And of course, this is why Twitter was shutting the story down back during the election, because it was really, really bad for Joe. And now we're stuck with him. But regular people they're fed up. I mean, we got 4.3 million resignations in August. We've got shortages of basically everything. Cargo ports, railways, everything is jammed up, trucker shortages, and it's all under Joe Biden. Things are not returning to normal. And it seems like they like it. They're okay with it. So now we are seeing Joe Biden with the worst aggregate approval rating of his 9 months, and he's already at 43. When Donald Trump was being impeached, he actually had the highest approval rating of his term. So I can't understand how someone could be so despised at this point and not be impeached when Trump could be. Or I should say I do get it. The media was just after Trump no matter what he did, and Biden can do no wrong. But here we are. Sooner or later, people are going to have to wake up and realize what's happening. So we're going to go through this. We got a bunch of news. We have a major scandal in Loudoun County with these parents who have been challenging critical race theory. Turns out, and we got to keep this one family friendly because it's a disgusting story, a man whose daughter was abused in a bathroom by a transgender student tried to bring the issue up and was tackled and dragged out. The scandal was covered up, and now it is all being revealed thanks to reporting by the Daily Wire. So we're going to get into all this stuff. Joining us today is Wokal Distance. I'm going to need you to just introduce yourself and explain who you are for everybody.
My name is Wokal Distance. That's my internet moniker. You can find me at Wokal_Distance on Twitter. I'm a visiting fellow at the Center for Renewing America, and I work in the area of postmodernism and critical theory.
So you have these threads all over Twitter just breaking down critical race theory, critical theory, gender theory, all that stuff, basically wokeness.
Yes, that's right. I want to dig up, and explain the intellectual and academic roots of what we call wokeness and the woke movement so that people can understand exactly what they're dealing with when woke people say things to them, which to the rest of us might not seem to make a lot of sense, but how within their own internal system it can be coherent.
Some people, one easy way to explain it is you've done work with James Lindsay.
Yes. Yeah. James Lindsay is a good friend of mine. We were at a retreat some time ago. The pictures are out there with some other people, and James is an excellent source. He's helped. His book Cynical Theories was very instructive, and him and I go back for a few years now, and we've been working on this problem.
Right
so
on.
He's excellent.
We got a lot to talk about. We also got Luke Rutkowski.
We got way too much to talk about. Holy cow, was today a, quote, good day. We're finding out that the president might have inadvertently funded his son's 2018 drug and prostitution binge. We're finding out Texas is banning all vaccine mandates by any entity. Judge in New York is refusing the exemption, the religious exemption to healthcare workers. He's actually approving it. There's the freedom flu going around. Netflix refuses to remove Dave Chappelle. Holy cow. I mean, it's just an absolutely crazy day. And we got a lot to talk about.
We've been working on the studio, so we've got a bunch of stuff that we're putting up, that we're fixing. And then I come up here and I'm like, okay, so what's the news for the day? Obviously, we have the Joe Biden's approval rating, and then there's the story. Joe Biden shared a bank account with his son, and I'm like, wow, that basically means it was his kickback. It's like, that's it. I don't know where you go from there when the president himself is getting money in these kickbacks, and they're just flat out saying it. So
yeah,
big news, huh?
There's a lot of implications here. But yeah, I'm here. I'm Luke Rutkowski of WeAreChange.org, and I have a YouTube channel that is We Are Change. So thanks for having me.
A vast reservoir of knowledge about to be released into this room. So I'm going to relax, sit back, and enjoy the ride.
Yes.
Mr. Crossland here. What's up?
Can I just add one thing to your Joe Biden bit? If money was deposited, that went into Joe Biden's bank account or a bank account that Joe Biden had access to, the question immediately becomes, if from Watergate, what did the president know and when did he know it?
Yeah.
I mean, he clearly knows when money goes into his account. Oh, no, I didn't know. I was just using the bank account, paying my bills with it while my son was actively taking money from foreign governments. And then I went to Ukraine and got a prosecutor fired who was investigating the company my son was a director at. Yeah, I think we know where this is going. We'll get into this stuff. We'll get into it. I don't want we'll save some of it. We got Lydia pressing the buttons, of course.
I'm also here. I'm attempting to more successfully push buttons tonight. There are a lot more buttons to push than I had before, so wish me luck tonight.
And soon to be way more. But before we get started, my friends, go to timcast.com, become a member, and you'll get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast. You especially want to go check the website right now and the members-only section for the Timcast IRL podcast, because there is big news, but we're going to wait until the end of the show to announce what's going on. So sign up, become a member, support our work. We're going to have a member segment coming up around 11 or so p.m. You don't want to miss it. And just, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all of that stuff. Apparently that helps us a whole lot on YouTube. Sharing is the best thing you can do. Take that URL, share it wherever you can. Leave us a good review. Let's get into this news. This is big, big stuff. We got the story from the Daily Mail. Exclusive. Joe Biden could become embroiled in the FBI's probe into Hunter's finances. Experts say. I love that. Experts say. Emails reveal they shared bank accounts, paid each other's bills, and the president may have even funded his son's 2018 drug and prostitution binge.
Whew.
We're going to be a little careful on this one because we try to be a family-friendly show. But when it comes to the president and his son, it's anything but family-friendly. From Joe Biden touching children and sniffing them inappropriately to his son doing crack. I'm sorry, we can only cover up so much in an attempt to protect your children's ears. The Daily Mail says President Joe Biden could become embroiled in an FBI investigation. Let me just stop and say, yeah, right. As if they're going to do anything. Emails recovered by DailyMail.com from Hunter's abandoned laptop. Between Hunter and Eric Schwerin, his business partner at Rosemont Seneca, show Schwerin was working on Joe's taxes, discussing the father and son paying each other's household bills, and even fielding requests for a book deal for the then vice president. Yikes! It is unclear why Schwerin had the intimate role in the vice president's affairs rather than government officials in the office of the vice president. Hunter's claim that he and his father shared a bank account also raises serious questions whether funds from the alleged joint account were used for Hunter's May 2018 week-long bender. Well, look, if you have a bank account, it's got $1 in it, and then someone puts $1 in it, the money is mixed up now. And then if you take $1 out, yeah, sorry, we don't play that game. This is how, when the feds go after money laundering, you can't just be like, it's one bank account, but all of our money is different. They're going to be like, nah, you're mixing it all together. They say last December, Hunter admitted in a public statement that he was under federal investigation over his tax affairs. All right, let's slow down for a second. So now we're learning Joe Biden sharing a bank account with his son. Hunter Biden on the board of Burisma getting paid, what was it, $83,000 per month.
Yeah.
Burisma being investigated, or I should say Mykola Zlochevsky, the founder of it, being investigated by the prosecutor Viktor Shokin. Joe Biden goes to Ukraine and says, if you don't fire the prosecutor, you don't get, was it $1 billion?
Yeah.
I think it was.
It was a huge amount.
And so they say, okay, fine. They fire the prosecutor. Official narrative from the U.S. establishment mainstream media is, oh, they fired him because he wasn't investigating this guy. So Hunter Biden, who has no business being on the board of this company, a company that's under investigation, getting paid $83,000, sharing a bank account with his dad. His dad then goes in, fires a prosecutor who was investigating the company. We know this from Matt Taibbi's reporting. Sounds like Joe Biden was protecting his own assets by going to Ukraine, getting this guy fired. It wasn't about corruption. It wasn't about anything other than his own corruption. So what do we do with information like that? I'm shrugging for those that aren't watching.
Do a TV show and talk about it?
Do a TV show.
Fortunately, you already have the TV show, so let's talk about it.
We can all shake our fists in the air and then tomorrow wake up because nothing changes?
No, this dude's a scumbag, and I think this is going to be big news. They tried to hide the laptop scandal with the Post story.
Yeah, you brought up a very important point here, Ian. The fact that there was so much censorship, especially around the Hunter Biden email stories, because the Daily Mail says that they got this story from the emails. So the fact that there was so much suppression shows that they actually do care about what the public thinks about them. They actually do need the public to acquiesce. And there's a large number of voters that said that if they knew about these emails, they would have voted differently. So this, of course, has a lot of implications. I mean, we know he lied about the on the ATF form when it comes to buying firearms. He lied about a lot of other things as well that he should have been, be held responsible for, liable for. I mean, the guy is on video committing acts. There's photos of him committing acts that we can't even mention here on YouTube.
Let me read this portion of the story because y'all's jaws are gonna hit the floor.
No.
Hunter and Schwerin privately discussed the potential to ingratiate themselves with, quote, CEOs of the major banks if they helped arrange the request. This is to Senator Robert Menendez, who requested VP Biden host the U.S.-Spain's Council 2010 annual meeting at his official Naval Observatory residence in D.C. They contacted Schwerin rather than Joe's White House office, interestingly. We then see this. Hunter complained that half of his salary went to paying his father's bills while he was VP, casting doubt on Joe's previous claim that he's never benefited from his son's business dealings. In a 2019 text to his daughter Naomi, he wrote, I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. It's really hard, but don't worry. Unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary. So that's previously uncovered information. Now we have Joe Biden sharing a bank account with his son. Let me explain something to y'all. I have an accountant and I'm like, hey, what can I do to help my family out? And he goes, nothing.
Oh.
Nothing. You cannot do anything special for family for the most part. There's certain things like friends and family, with investment stuff. But if you want to give someone money, it's taxed. It's either a gift up to a certain limit. Right now, I believe the limit is $15,000. And after that, you got to pay taxes on it. If they're splitting bank accounts and they're as wealthy as, we know they're wealthy, then this is, what is this, tax avoidance?
How much money went into this bank account?
I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. And I think the issue is, as soon as they mix their finances, questions have to be raised about any and all of their finances.
All of them, yeah. I was going to say, I heard a really familiar name in this story, and that was Bob Menendez. Do you guys remember Bob Menendez and what he got in trouble for? Something about the Dominican Republic and some kind of...
Young women?
Young ladies, yes, we'll put it that way. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't see anything bad ever happening to the Bidens based on what happened to Bob Menendez, a.k.a. nothing. I
don't think anything's going to happen. Look... It's kind of funny when, under Trump, they were like, Trump won't be investigated because Bill Barr is his lackey and it's never going to happen. And I'm sitting here like, and Merrick Garland, what's he going to do? You think Merrick Garland's going to go after Joe Biden and be like, lock him up? He's going to be like, hey, Joe, they're talking about you. Can I have some money? There you go.
Yep.
I think it's also hilarious that this is the same president lecturing parents about how they should raise their children. I mean, are you kidding
Low
me?
blow.
Yeah.
No, it's fair.
Let's be serious here. I mean, if you're Hunter Biden's father, you can't be telling other people how to raise your children.
Fair
You
point.
can't be telling people to, giving them specific, because he came out and said, if you're not following the science, if you're not taking these procedures, you're not raising your children right. And again, there's a lot to say about that, but there's just so much corruption, so much dirtiness. I mean, we have the flights to China, we have the business dealings with Ukraine, we have so many companies just intertwined. And yesterday on the show, I specifically said, sorry, I'm having like headphones problems, and I keep hearing myself back, so I keep getting distracted.
He's losing his mind. Sorry, Luke.
It's just weird hearing your own voice. But
Yeah.
There's so many instances, and as I said yesterday, this country has been sold for pennies on the dollar. And the way you buy influence, the way that you buy off politicians, the way that our system works is incredibly easy for a third party to come in and to manipulate this for their own benefit in so many different ways. Having videos of Biden doing unspeakable things with women, with relatives, with family members. I mean, that's top-notch, top-level extortion level material that could be leveraged that we know many foreign countries had before. Now, this is what we know. What don't we know about? What wasn't in the emails that we still don't know about that maybe foreign countries have that could be using to exploit the current president of the United States?
You know how I feel about this story? I feel like we get this bombshell revelation. Oh, Joe Biden's sharing banks, like they're funding each other, and Joe Biden potentially paying for hookers and stuff. I feel like I just burst into the room, and I'm like, everybody, listen, Joe Biden's a corrupt. And everyone's like, oh, we know.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
What are you even talking about? And I'm like, but we have the story. And they're like, yeah, whatever. What do you do? Are we going to see a red wave in 2022, maybe, an impeachment? The dude needs to be impeached, please.
Yeah, but then we're going to have, President Kamala and her child actors that she hires
Yeah.
to cackle and laugh into the camera as she does weird, strange, bizarre videos promoting space and looking at the craters of the moon for some reason. It's reassuring, with all the economic calamities, with so much problems, that the White House is spending money on child actors to convey people about looking at the moon. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? They're so out of touch with reality. They hope no one's paying attention. They want you to feel like, hey, there's so much corruption, it's just okay. It's the new norm. It's not. It's not okay. And I think there's a reason, what Ian brought up here, that censorship happened of these emails. The censorship was crucial. I think it would have made a big impact in the elections, and I think it's going to make an impact later down the line in this political spectrum when people look at the president, look at the clear corruption, look at the clear dereliction of duty, look at the clear mess left by him, and being like, how could we not seen this happening? Well, because of big tech, social, online censorship.
I would like to make 2 points. I would like to make 2 points about that. The guys in the chat are going nuts about my not being loud enough, so speaking
Turn it
up.
up a little bit. Here we go.
All right. I would like to point out, I would like to say that Jean Baudrillard is going to be spinning in his grave over that stunt that Kamala pulled. Absolutely
The child
unbelievable, because every ounce of that is fake. The whole thing is a prefabricated commercial where you're supposed to bring people in so that Kamala has a chance to go out and impress them. So it's a setup to begin with. But it's not even a real setup. It's supposed to be a setup of a spontaneous moment, but it's not even a real setup of a spontaneous moment. It's a fake setup of a spontaneous moment. It's 2 levels of fake. It's a fake of a fake. It's a copy of a copy. So they have actors who are paid to act like they're real people so that Kamala can come in and act like it's a spontaneous moment that's not set up and prefabricated ahead of time.
That they auditioned for.
Yes. So you had to audition for a spontaneous moment.
What a creepy fake reality.
Who's the last genuine president? I guess Trump was not. Nah, he wasn't genuine either. The way he said. Now I'm getting that weird tinny sound in my headphones. The way he said, Ghislaine, he wishes her well.
I don't know. I think Trump was very straightforward, and he just bluntly said that and many other things.
Maybe Trump. Before that, Jimmy Carter, because Reagan was full of it. I try to watch old interviews with Reagan, and he's just like smiling and like, oh, they're gonna.
He was an actor.
It's all theater. It's all a show. That's why they're literally building a stage for Joe Biden to not be in the White House. That's as it's played on like a theater.
Yes.
Everything we're seeing is just horse and pony. It's all a showcase. It's
Horse
all
and
meant
pony.
to fool you into this larger kind of illusion that they actually have power over you when they desperately need to have that conviction.
Well, we have more news. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden's aggregate approval rating is just getting massively worse, breaking a new record high disapproval and a new record low approval.
Wow.
This is just, it's getting bad. Disapproval is at 52.3. His approval is down to 43. And look at this major spike.
Wow.
Regular people are starting to wake up to what's going on. Joe Biden is bad. He is corrupt. His leadership is failing this country. We got a southern border crisis, an economic crisis, a jobs crisis, a mass resignation crisis, an inflation crisis, stagflation, shrinkflation, just any kind of flation. Just make
We
up
got
the
it,
word.
yeah.
We got all of them. Enough to go around for everybody.
It looks like that inflection point's right about when he came out with this mandate nonsense.
It's true. Yeah, right around the time he announced the mandate, when the mandate started becoming big, there was a
Yeah.
major swap.
And by the way, those aren't actual mandates. OSHA has not approved these things yet.
That's right. It was his announcement of a rule to be, and OSHA has not implemented any rules, and there's no executive order. Yet we're seeing all these businesses just go along with it. This is what I think. A lot of people anti-elected Trump. As we mentioned over and over again on the show, that there was that article, just stay alive, Joe Biden.
Right.
And this is what you get when you don't have a legitimate administration. And what I mean by that is an administration that is actually going to do the job, that is actually having the meetings, Joe Biden is probably asleep with a burlap blanket on his laps in the sun, snoring all day, while Kamala is just like, what do I got to do to make it seem like I'm working? Give me some
Cackling
child
somewhere.
actors or something, and I'll just pretend, and then I'm done, right? That's where we're at.
Yep.
That you are here.
Yep. So Biden was unelected, and we're seeing the result of choosing people based on like the color of their skin and their gender and sexual orientation. We're seeing Pete Buttigieg being totally incompetent, Kamala Harris just cackling her way through being a terrible vice president. It's
Cackling
insane.
her way through the vice
so
presidency.
bad. It's so bad. But this is what happens when you hire people based on, checking a demographic box. They're totally incompetent, and everyone's shocked by this.
It's also kind of what happens when you treat the political realm like a reality TV show. They want monkey dance, and then they get the entertainers and stupid people in charge doing the dance, and the people that are willing to do the dance, and everyone else builds spaceships.
So
Who's building a spaceship?
is there?
Elon.
I just
Jeff
want
Bezos.
to.
Mr. Musk.
Can I take a chance to just drive something home?
Yes.
We are living in a postmodern era. I keep screaming about this on Twitter, and this is how I kind of built my following. We are now living in postmodernism.
Is that why it doesn't make sense?
That is why, it's not
Awesome.
coherent. It doesn't need to make
Right.
sense. This is postmodernism.
Right.
I always say that Trump is our first postmodern president. He was the first president of the fully postmodern age, the age of narrative where truth doesn't matter. So you can see that in the entire media circus around Trump, where even the fact checks aren't real.
Mhm.
Right? They're not. The fact checks are not to check if the facts are real. They're to check if they're the appropriate facts that they approve of.
Right.
Are these approved facts? Are these the facts that are helpful to us? Right? So that's what goes on there. And then, as we've moved through the Biden presidency, everything about it is fake. They built a fake room so that he could pretend to be in the White House.
Right.
We had Kamala bring child actors on so she could pretend to be surprised and have an
Oh,
authentic
man.
moment.
Right.
And to be genuine, allegedly.
Yeah, so we had a fake genuine moment.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
we're going to stage a genuine moment for the
That'll
people,
be good, yeah.
so that the people can have a genuine moment to look at while they're watching President Biden get vaccinated in the White House.
Fake room, yeah.
In the fake room in the White House. This is all simulation. It's completely it's an era of complete and utter inauthenticity. So there is nothing about it which touches reality at any point. It's entirely staged. It doesn't refer to anything. Nothing about it is rooted in the real world experience of anybody. That's why you have actors who audition for it. It's not just they brought actors in and said, have a good time, or brought actors in and said, here are your lines. They brought actors in and said, you have to audition for the genuineness and surprise. How do you audition for a surprise? How do you audition to be surprised? What does that even mean?
Well, actors probably do it all the time in movies or whatever.
Yeah.
I think a better word than simulation is simulacrum.
Yes.
The simulation implies there's a functioning, subsystem, and we're trying. Is it real? Is it
Someone's in
no? It's a
charge.
caricature, and I wanted to make sure I got the definition right. An insubstantial replication. It is very obvious. It's like a caricature. We're looking at a caricature of an administration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
I think James O'Keefe really characterized this well, where he compared what's happening now to 1984, when they're asking you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. So I think we're at that particular phase right now where literally we have evidence, we have photos, we have documentation, we have witnesses, we have whistleblowers coming forward, screaming, saying, hey, there's some awful things happening in this world. There's some really bad people doing horrible things. And then the mainstream media is like, it's weather. There's bad weather, and regurgitating all this nonsense and lies that is absolutely nonsensical. And anyone paying attention to anything that's happening is just an insult to their intelligence.
I got a feeling that because it seems like since the internet, I started noticing them lying and creating a mass narrative that's not real. But before the internet, I never realized it. But I think they were just doing it then anyway. They're just using ABC News to push it. And now at least it's obvious that there's no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
Yeah. And it's not just child actors that they're hiring. They're hiring social media influencers. They're hiring doctors. They're hiring other actors. they're hiring everyone to kind of prop them up as this kind of legitimate force. And then when we really look at it, a lot of it is phony. A lot of it is based on lies. A lot of it is based on, here, we'll give you this money, just say these lines. And sadly, some people do that.
Do you guys know the story? We've talked about it a lot. Kierkegaard's clown. You know, he comes out and he's like, there's a fire in the back. And then everyone starts laughing. And he's like, no, seriously, there's a fire. And they laugh even harder. And he says, I think that's how the world will end, you know, or whatever. It kind of feels like it's the other way around. You know, there's a small group of us, and we're sitting in the audience, and on TV is all of these people that are all pretending like there's no fire, and we're the ones yelling back like there is a fire, and they're like, no, and they're putting on a show. They're performing. It kind of feels like we now exist with a government of people who are basically like, oh, what time is it? What do I have to do to pretend to do the job so that I can get paid and go home? Kamala Harris comes out with some child actors. Biden builds a fake set. You know what? Why? I don't understand the fake set, but I can say Biden likes to go home a lot.
Sure does.
No, but none of these people want to be working.
Well,
you hire people who weren't right for the job. This is what you get.
To be fair, I sympathize with. I understand people don't want to be at work most of the time. I can't really relate because I love my job. But I will say that this very much to me looks like a case of bread and circuses. And when you're seeing it in your politics, I think that's unsettling. That's a serious issue.
So can I throw something out?
Yeah.
I'd like to toss something out. I think what we're seeing is what I like to call the strawberry slurpee of a presidency. Okay, so here's what I mean. Suppose we go back in time and we find some original, natural, organic strawberries. We pick them, we eat them, they taste pretty good. Fast forward to the 1960s, and all of a sudden we can farm strawberries, and we only take the biggest, reddest, juiciest strawberries for consumption. We'll call that a productive copy. Well, then someone comes along and says, hey, we're getting those big, juicy strawberries. Well, we can make a strawberry candy out of it. Okay, well, then we go a little further, and someone else says, yeah, we can make a strawberry candy, but we're going to add some sugar. Okay, then someone else comes along and says, yeah, well, we'll make a strawberry candy, but we'll use corn syrup instead of sugar. Then someone else says, we'll make a soft drink of the candy. And then somebody else comes along and says, we are going to make a strawberry slurpee that is flavored like the soda, that is flavored like the candy, that is flavored like the straw. And
yes.
All of a sudden, you're so far away from the original thing that they're not even comparable. The flavor of the strawberry slurpee is nothing like the flavor of the organic thing. What we have right now for a presidency is nothing like what it's supposed to be. It's entirely what they think people expect a presidency to look like. That's why they have to build a set so they can get the perfect angle so that they can create the image of what they think people expect a presidency to be at the cost of what an actual presidency might actually be if one was really occurring.
I do got some bad news to add to that. I think raspberry might be a better example. Because you guys know where they get the flavoring for a raspberry artificial flavor?
Beavers?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's beaver anus.
Yeah, it's
Castorum?
beavers.
Is that what
Yeah.
It's the beaver anal gland, I think it is.
Beaver butt.
So
That's perfect.
You think you're eating this delicious. It's strawberry. They say you're eating a strawberry, and you take a bite, and you're like,
Yeah,
it's kind of like strawberry.
Castoreum,
And they're
the
like,
yellowish
it's not
exudate.
real. It's
Gross.
actually just from beaver butt.
That's right.
That's Biden's presidency.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're eating some artificial GMO Monsanto gene spliced strawberry shake that doesn't taste anything like it was supposed to.
And it came
but
from a
you're
beaver butt.
convinced that this is normal since this is what they gave you since you were a little small child.
The even worse about that is that the flavor is not the point. It's what the nutrition you get from a strawberry.
Bingo.
When you eat. So now we've got mutilated disflavor, and you're not even getting any of the nutrition that you need from the valid strawberry presidency.
It's not just Biden. It's everything. It's
Yes.
the whole government. It's the whole government. It's Congress. It's the Senate.
I think they built that room for like implementing a special teleprompter that's really big that they can't
Big
fit in the White
letters.
House,
Yeah.
or just some kind of new medical advice that like wakes him up and zaps him. Or
Slaps
there has
him.
to be some reason, some kind of official explanation.
He's got a gigantic series of cables in his back that go down into a massive power system. It's a giant reactor to keep him alive. He's Robo Biden.
that would make more
You
sense.
remember when
would make more sense.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt started? He got paralyzed. I think was it polio that took his legs, his walk.
Yeah.
Wasn't he always paralyzed?
No, not in the beginning of his presidency, and they hid it for like I don't know how long,
Yeah,
2
remember
years or
that.
something. They hid it.
Yep.
So what I imagine with Biden, I mean, the guy is decrepit. If that's the right word, he's like almost falling over.
He's a
He's
zombie.
That is the right word, yes.
Like if you listen to 10 years ago, are they hiding it? They've done it before.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't know, but I want to go back to your point about the nutrition thing, because I think it's just a perfect point. All of the stuff that should be going on in Congress isn't. None of it's going on. But if you go to Congress, it sure looks like there's stuff going. You've got people in suits walking around,
Things are
very
happening.
important people. People are exchanging business cards. There's Capitol Hill police. There's a lot of people that are walking around looking very, very busy. They're holding votes on things. Nothing's going on. It's entirely fake. This is Baudrillard's point, and this is why I say we're living in a postmodern moment. We are living in a time of the image is what matters. The substance is almost utterly irrelevant, if it's even seen at all.
We know they're all lying, is
They
what
know
really,
we're lying.
really makes me just so sick of all of this. Let me pull up the story. We got another story. Check this out. You guys are going to love it. Southwest CEO says he never wanted a COVID vaccine mandate, but Biden forced his hand. Is that what Biden is? He's the patsy. For the CEOs, for the establishment, they're like, I'm imagining the CEO sitting there and he's trying to do this vaccine mandate. And like the CEO from some other company, like, AA's there. And it's like, everybody's mad at me. What do I do? Oh, just blame Biden. What do you mean?
Of course.
You don't blame, you're not blaming Biden for your problems? Oh, Biden's our fall guy. Yeah, all of the problems in the economy right now, everything bad happening, you just say Biden did it. Okay, and he comes out and he's like, I didn't want a vaccine mandate. Biden made me do it. Even though Biden didn't make anyone do it because there's no actual executive order or OSHA rule. But it's a convenient out for a guy who's collapsing in his approval rating for the Southwest CEO to be like, I don't know, everybody seems to be mad at the guy. Let him take the fall for me.
I think this is a continuation of the same thing. This is them wanting the appearance of the thing without the actual thing. They want the appearance of bowing to this superior, having some kind of responsibility to what Biden has told them to do, even though they haven't actually made a law or a rule or even a mandate. So they're just taking the appearance. They don't really care about what's actually true.
Look at this. Let me read this. They say, quote, I've never been in favor of corporations imposing that kind of mandate. I'm not in favor of that, never have been. But the executive order from President Biden mandates all federal employees and then all federal contractors, which covers all major airlines, have to have a vaccine mandate in place by December 8th. So we're working through that. Now, that sounds a bit circuitous. There is the federal employee mandate, as my understanding, but this covers all the airlines? I didn't know that. Southwest said last week that's 56,000 employees need to be vaccinated by December 8th in order to keep working for the airline under federal mandate. Southwest's announcement came a few days after other carriers, American Airlines, Alaskan Airlines, and JetBlue, informed employees of the need to adhere to federal vaccine rules. In August, before the Biden administration's action, United Airlines and Hawaiian Airlines instituted COVID vaccine requirements for their staffs. United said earlier this month that more than 96% of its 67,000 U.S. employees have shared proof of vaccination after its late September deadline. What was the amount of employees they had before this was announced? And also, just to throw it back to what Ian said, around August is when Joe Biden announced the vaccine mandates, and that's when his approval rating flipped the inflection point, when all of a sudden people were like, I don't like this guy. Because I'll tell you, I mentioned this on the show several times. I know somebody who is like Biden and waving Biden flags, and now he's freaking out because he's like, my job is going to force me to do this and I don't want to.
Yeah, some people are saying that the Southwest CEO is in the World Economic Forum, is a part of that group. And it's also just very convenient that he's just lumping everything on Biden. He doesn't have to comply. There's a lot of other people. There's a lot of unions. There's a lot of big companies saying we're not going to comply with this. And there was even a statement saying that Southwest will not be using the Texas exemption as a way to implement, this vaccine passport, this vaccine mandate, which they're imposing. There's also a very interesting date that they're setting, not just with Southwest, but many other corporations are setting the date of December 8th as the deadline. It's all kind of done in unison, which is oddly strange as well. But again, no one is forcing Southwest to do this. It's an executive order. Executive decrees are argued. They go to court. There's a lot of very important court battles. So he's moving forward with this. And clearly, a lot of his employees, a lot of the people who work for him, aren't happy with this, and they're protesting in their own kind of unique way that we're seeing with this freedom flu that's going around.
I don't think it's protest.
I think
kind of.
I think yes. There's a very kind of blurred line here because the pilots don't want to get officially in trouble.
No,
here.
I don't. I talked to a pilot and he's like, it's worse than a sick out. Like this, a lot of people want to believe that all these pilots are like, hey guys, should we jump ship right now? And they'll high five, but don't let anyone know because we'll get in trouble. When in reality, it seems like, as we've been saying time and time again, you can only push people so far. Yeah. I don't see evidence of an organized effort. I see regular people just saying, I'm out. And that's something substantially worse. It's like, so this is what I was saying the other day. Imagine if Biden came out and said, in order for everybody to keep their jobs, they got to go punch a baby. And then all of a sudden it's like record resignations, airlines shut down. What's happening? It's like, dude, no one organized an event not to punch babies. They just won't do it. That's what people need to understand about vaccine mandates. It's not like some guy called his friend and said, let's organize together and refuse this. It's a guy being like, yo, I ain't doing that. Just on his own. He didn't need anybody to tell him to do it.
Yeah, that's big. That, along with other disruptions in our supply chains, in our labor, workforce, is something that's only going to start from now on, since of these deadlines are just encroaching in just a few days from now. So there's a big conflict happening, and whether it's organized or not organized, it's happening. And there's a formidable force of individuals, of people saying enough is enough. I believe in my personal autonomy. I believe in my personal liberty. I believe in being able to make the right decisions for myself as a human being. And the media is acting like these people don't even exist. Mm-hmm. They do exist. There's a lot of them. There's a lot more of them than we would even know about, because they don't want you knowing about this. They don't want you even talking about the major demonstrations and protests that have been happening all over the world.
In New York,
in Italy, in France, in Australia, in the United Kingdom. There's been major, huge rallies with thousands of people hitting the streets saying, hey, this is an unpopular policy. I don't want to ask permission to go to the supermarket from the government. I don't want big fat bureaucratic agents who work at the DMV relegating every aspect of my existence and what I could do and where I could go.
I want to point something out too. The Southwest CEO is really coming out against the mandates. Sounds like he knows what's really driving the work strain.
Yeah. Right.
Could I just ask, you said that there actually isn't a mandate in place? The Southwest CEO, there's not a real law.
So Biden said if you got at least 100 employees, you got to mandate vaccines. OSHA has yet to implement any rule, and there's no executive order. However, what the Southwest CEO is saying is that Joe Biden did issue an executive order on federal contractors, which includes airlines. Therefore, they must adhere to a federal vaccine mandate. Okay. Now he's in trouble, though. It's funny that the media comes out and is like immediately trying to debunk the narrative. No, pilots aren't sticking out or anything like that. And I'm like, okay, technically the truth, but they're just not showing up because they won't do this. Now the CEO comes out and says, I'm not in favor of vaccine mandates. Well, hold on there a minute. Who cares? I thought vaccine mandates had nothing to do with why there was a major flight cancellation and why you were short-staffed.
Yeah.
I thought it was weather.
Mm-hmm.
He said it was the weather. What's funny is American Airlines, the only airline impacted by weather. It's amazing.
Crazy.
They must fly paper airplanes that get soggy and fall out of the sky. It's complete BS. They're lying. For him to come out and be like, Biden wanted the vaccine mandate, sounds like he's now trying to placate the people who aren't showing up.
Yeah. And he's trying to shift blame on himself, his personal decisions, and blame it on Biden, which I think many multinational corporations have been doing, many powerful interests have been doing when they implement a lot of their policies that they would never dare publicly even speak about. But when you have a guy who's not really even there, who can't even speak properly, that's the perfect opportunity to ram through your bullcrap, blame everything on him. We talked about this a few days ago. You just brought up this point. I mean, this is absolutely perfect. A genius strategy in order to get away with these atrocities that clearly people do not want. People are sick of it. There's also two images going around the internet right now that are going pretty viral. One is a Southwest airplane with the Gadsden flag outside of its window. Yeah. And another one is someone in a Southwest uniform putting his head down with a sign saying, "No jab, no job. Why? ? Father of 5, 20-year Navy vet, 4,000 hours Southwest Airlines, and a heart that's broken." So those two images are going viral right now. And whether this was, organized or not, I don't think it even matters at this point, because I think it's clear with the mandates encroaching, especially on December 8th for many people all over the world, for many people in the United States, for many corporations, that these kind of, actions, these kind of disruptions are only going to get more intense. There's some people calling for a national strike. There's already shortages at Amtrak. Amtrak is already canceling a number of train options for people because of issues with their staff. Again, being extremely vague here. Let's just call a spade here. A lot of people aren't happy, and they're not sitting down for it.
Luke, why December 8th?
I have no idea. I think, I mean, we could speculate right now. There's no smoking gun evidence directly saying why, but it could be because it's right before the holiday season. It's right during crunch time. It's right when everyone is going to hope to have money to give their loved ones gifts. So that's some of the speculation out there. That
Wait, so you're saying they want the system to crash?
I believe there is an element that will profit off of the system crashing, and they're making protocols and restrictions and mandates that will create a situation that will put us there. I do believe that is somewhat done deliberately by the special interest and powers that do set to gain from hurting everyone else.
It's part of why I
December 8th is
can't
pretty-
stand tradition, man. People feel locked into this Thanksgiving, Christmas thing when you could be celebrating with your family anytime. Do it now before the junk
I
hits
don't
the
think
fan.
people feel locked in. People in cities don't. They have Friendsgiving, just like they hang out.
I
and
love
then-
that.
Yeah.
And then there are
but
families that have Thanksgiving. No one's making you
businesses
do it.
like give people time off on these certain days every year, so
Yeah.
it's like you kind of have to live your life around those days if you're in that environment, and that can become very dangerous. Centralizing your time is very dangerous.
Well, I'm not a fan of the holidays because people stop working.
Yeah, how dare
And
they?
then and look, the way the economy works is if other people stop working, I can't work either.
Yeah.
Because there's only so much. So on on holidays we basically are just taking time off now. And I didn't used to do this, but it really is working on the holidays like trying to lift 10 times the weight you normally lift.
Yeah. Boeing also announced that all employees, quote, must be vaccinated by December 8th as well. Many other corporations are doing this as well. But this is all because they're allegedly Biden's federal contractors. And this is how, again, they're making it so just weird with their mandates, with their, quote, alleged executive orders, that it's very hard to follow a lot of this. It's not very simple. I think it's meant to confuse a lot of people. It's meant to scare people. I think there's a big agenda to make people feel alone, to make them feel scared, to make them feel like resistance is futile when in many instances it's not.
All right. Well, my friends, listen, heed my words. We're going to build back better, baby. Because we got breaking news. This is amazing. 4.3 million Americans quit their jobs in August, a new record.
Oh, my.
Great resignation trend continues as job market upended by pandemic. Wow, this is amazing news. Let's get a round of Let's Go Brandon, everybody. Let's go, Brandon.
Brandon.
Yeah, this is
Yes.
great.
Woohoo.
Thank you, Joe Biden. Let's go, Brandon, for the
Yes.
mass resignations during a supply shortage, cargo ships being jammed up, trucker shortages, labor, food, gas prices skyrocketing. And now 4.3 million people in August quit their jobs. I wonder what the numbers for September are.
That's when the mandate was issued. And it's also important to understand that, again, a lot of people here are putting themselves in a situation knowing that they're going to lose everything, and they're saying, I might as well just get out of this crazy situation if they're going to be enforcing this and move on and find another way, find another job. So I wouldn't be surprised if most of those resignations, most of those people quitting were from big companies who were mandating this and them saying, no, I'm not going to go along with this and I need an out.
Now check this out. They say approximately 4 million people per month have been leaving their jobs since the spring as part of a trend that has become known as the Great Resignation. Under Joe Biden's presidency, for some reason, everybody's quitting their jobs. Mm-hmm. Great, that's amazing. That's good.
Great.
It's a good thing. It's almost like
It's a good
there's
thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. The economy is being reset at a great level.
That's what it sounds like to me. I was just going to say, having this many people resign in the course of a month, that sounds like a really big reset.
Resignation for the reset nation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. It's terrifying.
I
but-
wonder what's going to happen, because people who are familiar with how supply chains work know how bottlenecks work, right? If you get something that's constricting and slowing it down. So right now there's a lot of backlog at ports. Suppose 5% of truckers resign because they don't want to get vaccinated. And suppose 5% of ship captains resign. And suppose 5% of, say, warehouse workers resign. That's a lot more friction on an already stressed system. That bottleneck is going to back up in a real hurry. And the question is going to be, what's it going to take to be able to get out? These vaccine mandates, if they are the cause of these resignations, this is going to hit supply chain stuff, and that supply chain stuff is going to get way worse before it gets better. And the question becomes, at a certain point, how do you even unload those ports? What are you going to do?
Well, Walmart, Home Depot, these stores are all chartering private boats now. It's really, really amazing. I mean, look, 2020 was bad, right? And we can say Donald Trump did a good job in 2019. It's a great economy. 2020 COVID hits and then things aren't so good. But we're supposed to be recovering. Joe Biden has turned what is supposed to be a rapid resurgence as we reopen into a complete catastrophe.
Yep.
And to be fair, we love to just throw it at Joe Biden because he's the president, but it's his administration. Every single one of them involved.
If he promises something, he should be held accountable for it. He also promised the COVID numbers to go down. They've been going up dramatically with more intervention, more government getting involved. And again, even when it comes to the ports, there's so many things to unwind there because in the mainstream media, like we saw in this article by The Independent, this is all pandemic related. You know, job loss, economic suffering, inequalities. This is all pandemic. This is all because of the sickness. No, it's not. It's because of the government. It's because of big fat cat bureaucrats intervening, making the situation that much worse and not really helping anyone out, especially when you look at the scientific data and you see direct intervention, mandates, restrictions, lockdowns, and you see places that didn't follow it. You look at the cases, you look at the numbers, the hospitalizations, the deaths. There's not a big difference there at all. And some would argue that the situation has been exacerbated to its fullest extent with the ports. There's literal ships that are ready to dock. They can't because one of their workers tested sick. What do many of these boats have to do? They can't just wait it out. They have to go back to their country of origin where they started from. So we're talking about ships that were in the Philippines, that are in California, have to go back to the Philippines. There's labor unions, a part of these trade routes, that are saying, please stop with these ridiculous lockdowns, with these ridiculous restrictions. They make absolutely no sense at all. The laws that you guys have implemented here are absolutely backwards. Meanwhile, you have the southern border wide open. But if you come into the United States, you need a negative test.
The word
It's like
quarantine actually comes from, it's Italian, from the 1660s. A ship suspected of carrying contagious disease would have to wait in port for 40 days. The quarantine.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah. You guys ever see the episode of Seinfeld where George Costanza decides to do the opposite of everything he normally
fantastic.
does? It's almost like
Bizarre.
that's Joe Biden.
That's what we're trying.
He's
trying.
do the opposite of what so everything goes wrong. The ports are all backed up, but the border's wide open. Drug cartels are smuggling drugs in, but we can't get our Christmas toys.
That's right.
What? Why? Wait, the one thing that should be here can't, and the one thing that's not supposed to be here is.
Yeah.
Talk about a guy doing the opposite of what's supposed to be happening.
Hunter Biden is happy, though. He's getting whatever he wants. So, again, we talked about his approval numbers, and we said it's probably the Taliban, it's probably the cartel members that are the ones that are saying we're very happy with what's happening right now, because everyone else is just looking around. And I think a lot of people are ashamed that they even voted for Biden. I'm not seeing anyone support Joe Biden. I'm not seeing anyone make any defenses except for sellouts who get hired to do it. Whether it's influencers, actors, they're the only ones publicly supporting them. They're having a hard time even pulling that off.
It's punk rock again.
Oh.
Now that Joe Biden's approval rating is in the gutter, it is once again punk rock to oppose Joe to support Joe Biden.
Yes.
Because now most people don't like him.
Okay.
So now that most people don't like him, I actually like him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I'm punk rock.
What do you like most about him?
His eyes.
Okay.
His hair is
You
my
mean
favorite.
his beady eyes that barely are up?
I like his grubby little hands.
Cheering for Biden is so mainstream, man.
Yeah, man.
It was for a long time. I wonder now what'll happen now that people are starting to hate him. Will celebrities now be like, Joe Biden sucks?
No,
The question
no.
for me is just looking at how the politics of this are shaping up. Biden was brought in on a wave of anybody but Trump. I wonder what is going to happen if Trump throws his hat back in the ring. I don't know what Trump is going to do, but suppose Trump throws his hat back into the ring. Now your people are going to get to say, okay, we're going to Trump can run on his record, and Joe Biden is going to run on his record, and I wonder what that looks like. What media environment does that create? What new levels of inauthenticity will the media reach? What new levels of fakery will show up when you all of a sudden, because when Biden was running, it was always, he was basically running on Obama's record. I was Obama's vice president. Therefore, everyone goes, okay, well, how were the years during Obama? Well, that I guess maybe wasn't the worst thing in the world. And they hate Trump, so fine. They can pull the lever for Biden. Now Biden has a track record. Now people get to look at Biden and say, this is what we're going to vote for 4 more years of.
Now they'll take Trump.
Yeah.
We're seeing Trump support go up in a lot of key areas.
I want to correct you a little bit because Biden wasn't running. The media was running for Biden, and Biden was literally in a basement, and they were keeping him there, making sure he wasn't out there to the general public. So now the media is even questioning Biden and being like, wait, hold on. What do we have on our hands here? We have a president that doesn't even want to talk to us, that literally says he's going to get in trouble if he gives us a comment.
Yep.
We're having record low ratings. We're shilling for a guy that literally doesn't even know what's going on, doesn't even know where he is, that literally created one of the worst disasters in geopolitical history with Afghanistan. And they're looking around at the utter chaos and devastation. And I think even a lot of people in the media are going to have a very hard time shilling for him again in 2024. And I don't think he's going to be running. I think he's not going to be the candidate. It's impossible with the havoc that he is wrecking on the American people.
It'd be too good.
Yeah.
It would be too good for the Republicans and for the anti-establishment. So they need to pull him out and then get some kind of do-over with. But I don't know. Honestly, I don't even know who to name. Who is
Kamala Harris.
No
No
one
way.
likes her.
No.
No one likes her.
She's worse
and
than
She's
Hillary.
like she's like Hillary but worse.
No
Yeah.
one
It's
likes.
amazing.
Well, I guess
right?
some people like Biden,
Who
I
likes
guess.
Biden?
but I guess like
Well-
13% of the population
No,
when
hold
he
on.
ran.
Now, hold on there a minute, Ian. Let me ask you a question. If someone came to you and told you that they liked, say, Giordano's deep dish pizza, it's good, right?
Now I'm listening. Yeah.
But what if you then asked them when was the last time they had it, and they said, "Oh, I've never actually had it."
Oh.
Would you believe them?
No,
that they,
I would prefer not to hang out with that person.
But you'd be like, "How could you say you like Giordano's deep dish pizza if you've never actually?"
Oh, I think
had
I
it?
know people like that. Where they're like, you like that? They're like, yeah. And they're like,
Exactly.
why did I
exactly.
lie?
So when you say some
Disingenuous.
people like Biden, I'm like, you're correct, but it's just like that. They don't know anything about him. They haven't followed the news. They don't know or care. It's just, I like, whatever.
He
It's-
is not Trump.
And we just
Right.
pull out the old postmodern analysis of Joe Biden and say they're not voting for Biden. They're voting for the symbol of what Biden represents. They're voting for the media created image of what Biden would be if he was actually
were
in charge
good.
and running things.
We need a comic about this.
Yeah.
Right?
Where like
good.
there's the media's version of Joe Biden. Have you ever seen Ben Garrison's version of Trump?
Yes.
I love
Oh
it.
my gosh.
He's like ripped
I
and he's
can't
like got
handle
a
it.
strong
His
chest
hair.
and broad shoulders and yeah, come on, please.
Glorious.
And I still voted for the guy, but I recognize that's not Trump. Trump walks like a duck and he's overweight. All right, he's been doing better.
Yeah,
he
he's
lost
doing
a lot of
great.
weight.
Looks good.
But I would love a comic of like the media's version of Joe Biden. Like the Joe Biden that exists in the hearts and minds of the most zealot Democrats. He's like ripped and chiseled with his aviator sunglasses and a leather jacket, and he's in a convertible, and he's like, "Get in, loser! We're saving America!" And they're like, "Yay!" When in reality, he's like, he can't speak and he touches kids.
Yeah. Well, didn't they do a magazine cover where he was wearing his super cool aviators, and where everyone was just like, "What is this?" Like, we all see this feeble, decrepit old man, and you guys are trying to tell us that he's some kind of superhero. But
They
Barack
love it.
Obama was right when he said you should never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to mess things up.
I love the people who are like, "Hey, remember, Obama's only scandal was a tan suit."
Oh my.
And there are people who are just like, it's like the pizza thing. The people who are just like, they'll say, "Yes, I like whatever you say." So they all laugh along and go, yeah, tan suit. And then I'm just like, you remember when Obama killed that kid, that American kid, in a civilian restaurant in Yemen, like, and other civilians? Yeah, you don't want to talk about scandals.
Operation Fast and Furious,
Oh,
Yes.
spying scandal, NSA scandal, war on whistleblowers, going after
Spying on Merkel, man.
journalists and whistleblowers more than any other president before him with this one particular law. I forgot the name of it.
The Espionage Act?
The Espionage
Yeah,
Act.
he used it more than all other presidents combined.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, there's so many things to talk about the Biden presidency, and a lot of people have said that a Biden presidency is a continuation of an Obama presidency, and there might be some merit to that, but this would be kind of an unmasked Obama push that literally is just the perfect representation of everything globalists ever wanted. It's their epitome of their wet dream when it comes to when you see what they're able to achieve. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, it was just a mistake. Oh, this is there's just an accident." I think when you're at that high level of government, I think when you have that much money, that much power, I think they play things off as accidents and mistakes, when in reality, a lot of this stuff was deliberate. And when you look at whose interests it serves, who it helps, it's usually the people backing these individuals. It's usually the dark money. It's usually a lot of the people that are behind the scenes, that usually are very influential in governments, but they're the ones that don't get voted on. They don't get elected, but they're still there.
The bureaucratic state.
Exactly.
I just sent Lydia the there's a comic book where they made a comic of Hillary Clinton.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I forgot about
geez.
this.
Yeah, they did.
The superhero we didn't know we needed.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
an
it's-
evil villain, Hillary
it's-
Clinton.
it's
We
a-
knew we didn't want.
Yeah, we knew we didn't want her.
I'll
We
tweet out
don't
the-
deserve or need.
Yeah, no,
Let me pull up the
that.
story from Timcast.com. This is, you may have heard the news. Governor Abbott bars vaccine mandates in Texas. The state's legislature previously banned local governments and school districts from requiring vaccines or masks. This is big. It's that simple. Now, Joe Biden's executive order for the OSHA rule, 100 employees or more, it doesn't exist. It was just a press conference. It's not there. There's no executive order on the books, and OSHA has not implemented this rule. However, Abbott is saying in Texas you cannot have vaccine mandates. Southwest is based in Dallas. So what are they going to do? Are they going to, so what are they going to now, if they do this, they're going to get fined, I guess, per employee or however it works, $1,000. But think about this. What happens if OSHA does drop this rule? Let's say you're a business in Texas and you're told by the governor, if you mandate vaccines for your employees or customers, we will fine you $1,000 per infraction. But then you get the Fed saying, if you don't, we will fine you way more per infraction.
So do you think this is why the Southwest CEO is saying what he's saying about not liking vaccine mandates or mask mandates or whatever?
He can't do anything about it. I mean, you got this. I just got to slow down. Pick a side. Because that's where we're at. Pick a side.
Yeah, that's what bothers me. This is an example of fighting authoritarianism with authoritarianism. What Abbott did, I think, is a step too far. He basically mandated that no one can authorize vaccines. He's telling the private
you can't
companies.
mandate it.
He's saying so the federal government said everyone has to do it. Then Abbott came in and said no one's allowed to do it.
And you know why?
What he
There's
should have done.
already a law in the book saying you can't discriminate for medical reasons.
So what he should have said is you don't have to listen to the federal government. You can do whatever you want.
No. The mandate specifically says that individuals are allowed exemptions for religious, personal conscience, or medical reasons.
Yeah.
So this is what's effectively shutting down the vaccine mandates, that people can just choose not to get them due to personal conscience. There's already laws in the books saying you can't discriminate for medical or religious reasons.
As far as I can tell, and correct me if I'm wrong, Abbott's telling every private company in Texas that they're not allowed to mandate vaccines now.
Should they be allowed to ban people if they're black?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Why?
Or if they're in a
Civil
wheelchair.
rights law?
Yeah, or if they're in a wheelchair. Should they be allowed to ban wheelchairs?
Or people with like AIDS or cancer.
Well, it depends on the job. You know, certain things require certain amounts of activity. So, like, if you need someone to climb ladders, you can't hire someone in wheelchairs. But that's a form of discrimination.
So if you need somebody to work in a grocery store, and there are jobs that can be done in a grocery store that someone in a wheelchair can do, should they be allowed to say no wheelchairs allowed? What about a Muslim person? Should they be able to be like, no, get that Muslim stuff out of here? Or should they be allowed? They
I think
shouldn't.
that violates
Civil rights.
Civil rights.
Right.
Yes, and there's also the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. So now you've got medical reasons, and we shouldn't have to present our papers to our to the store to prove. Should a person who's got some kind of like should someone have to go and prove that they're the right race? If they say, I'm not firing you because of your race, because I don't even know if that's your real race. Should they have to go then go pull up lineage? No, you don't got to prove it. We just make the case when we complain. The point is, I agree to a certain extent. We shouldn't have rule by decree. However, these are different situations. If the law already states you can't discriminate for religious reasons and medical reasons, and it does, case closed.
Yeah.
If someone says it is against my deeply held moral and spiritual and religious or whatever beliefs, they should be able to do
Yeah, but
anything
you don't
about
have to hire someone with leprosy if they come in there.
That's different.
What's different about it?
I mean, come on, bro.
I mean, it's different to
they're-
me and you because we pay attention, but in the mind of a business owner, who's the governor to say who they can and can't?
That's a different question, because in one case you're asking about somebody who already has a disease, and the second case you're asking about not whether someone has a disease, but whether or not they've been vaccinated. not whether or not they're sick. So in the case of the leprosy thing, you'd say, well, you already have it, you can give it to somebody. Whereas in the case of the vaccine thing, do you have COVID? No, I don't have COVID. Too bad. Why? Because you're not vaccinated, right? That's the separation point. What I would ask is whether or not, for all the people who are pushing the COVID thing, could a bar owner say nobody with STDs is allowed to come to ladies' night? We want couples to get together,
and you got to bring your papers.
That's right.
Bring a negative test.
You have to disclose to us your HIV status. Would people be comfortable with that?
Of course they wouldn't.
Or would people be comfortable saying, look, you have to have your vaccine for Hep C before you can come in? Would people be comfortable with that? For me, the question is, how far can these things get pushed? Yeah. And I understand vax passports. I understand why people want them, but the question that no one has been able to answer for me is, where is the hard and fast line that it stops? No one's been able to give me an answer to that, and that's why I'm so skeptical of them.
Let's add another element here. Let's talk about this, vaccine that stops STDs. The vaccine that stops this hypothetical that we're talking about doesn't stop STDs. It doesn't prevent the spread of STDs. It doesn't stop people from having STDs as well. On top of all of this, which people need to understand the greater point here. So there's so many different ways that people could take this. If we're starting to discriminate against people because of their medical personal choices and decisions, let's first discuss that, and even on those merits, whether the effectiveness of the vaccine, the transmission of the vaccine, natural immunity, I think that conversation needs to happen in its first place. The second thing is, no one should be telling me what to do. A government shouldn't be controlling every aspect of my existence, because if they could do this with the vaccine, they could do this with almost every other aspect of our existence.
And Abbott's basically telling business owners what to do. He's saying you cannot.
He signed an executive order saying that vaccine mandates are not allowed by any entity.
Right. So it's a form of authoritarianism now. Maybe he did the right thing.
I
I'm just
disagree
saying,
because he's standing up for people's civil rights. He's standing up for people's personal decisions. He's standing up to the current kind of HIPAA laws that are out there that says that people can't be discriminated against and have to divulge their medical history anytime.
Already evident. He doesn't need to mandate civil rights to people. He just needs to protect them from the federal government's overreach.
That's what he's doing,
Southwest is literally violating social norms and law.
Then they can go work at a different Texas. I mean, this is I think when it starts to break down is when it's a national company with a satellite in Texas.
This is really interesting, because we did have this conversation before. It may have been with Michael Malice. The argument you're making is the argument that was made by conservatives, and maybe conservative isn't the right word, but it was made by the Democrats to stop civil rights. They said the government should not have the authority to mandate a private business, not discriminate. They can serve whoever they want. If someone doesn't want to work there or someone doesn't go, they don't have to go there. That was always the argument. Then you had the social, people fighting for civil rights, specifically saying public accommodations are shared by all. If we're all paying taxes into it, then we should all be able to utilize these services. My view of it is, if there is limited space in the commons, and there is a building occupying space in that commons, and my tax dollars go towards infrastructure, plumbing, fire department, EMS, and all that, they should not be allowed to discriminate against me or anybody else on specific grounds that, of course, we need to sort through and outline. Now, we have outlines, many of them. Religious reasons. You can't put up a sign saying no Muslims allowed. You can't mandate that people eat bacon to enter your store, because that would very serious. Someone walk in. I mean, maybe you can, but then if someone who was Muslim walked up and they said, do it, you can be like, you can't do that. That's discrimination on the basis of my religion. And you'd probably get in trouble. There's a guy who went to jail for throwing bacon at a mosque. So right now, Abbott is basically saying these mandates just violate so many of our non-discrimination laws. You can't do this. Public accommodation is for all. If we are paying taxes into it, we are a community. To maintain social cohesion, you cannot restrict access to someone on the basis of their medical reasons or religious reasons or personal moral conscious reasons. Now, it's tough, it is, because personal moral conscience is a broad term. But he said that in his executive order because it's basically about religion. There's a lot of people who are saying, oh, but the Pope said you can get the vaccine, even though they use fetal cells to make it. In the testing process and in other vaccines, they literally use it, and they use it in testing for a bunch of other medicines. The Pope says it's fine. Well, I don't care what the Pope thinks. And I'm sure there's a whole lot of other Catholics who don't care that the Pope has said that. They're like, no, that goes against our religious values. So if we already have the laws on the books, then him simply saying, hey, guys, I am reinforcing that you cannot discriminate.
So I guess we're all in agreement that sometimes authoritarianism is necessary and good.
No.
No,
Well, that's
You
what Abbott just
discriminate-
did.
No, we're
No,
not. We're not for
hold on there.
discrimination.
Hold on there a minute. You mean decades of civil rights work to get laws put on the books through legislation and elected representatives who then voted on it is authoritarianism?
No, I'm saying him making a decree like this is authoritarianism.
Making a decree to reinstate, to reaffirm what is
yeah,
already
just like
law.
desegregating schools. That was authoritarianism. You can see how it works sometimes.
Desegregating schools was the part of a long process that resulted in a republic having a vote on an issue. So authoritarianism was when everyone just falls in line and adheres to the authority, like the woke cult. When people have strong objections and disagreements, and then we say, hey, we all have finally agreed, this is the line, you can't discriminate. And it was through a democratic representative process. Sure, you can argue that people are, oh no, they have to adhere to the authority of the state because we all agreed to it, but there's a big difference between we fought long and hard, we won over hearts and minds, we got our elected representatives put in office, they voted for it, then the Supreme Court upheld it, and now we're at a point where the governor is saying, guys, the law is clear, you can't do this. I am not going to allow you to because as the head of the executive branch of my state, I am here to enforce the laws that already exist. That's not authoritarianism. Joe Biden issuing an edict where he convinces people there's a law in the books when there isn't, and they all start following him, that's authoritarianism.
It's both. It's just two governors making declarations about what to do, telling people what they can and can't do.
Wait. Is your objection that it was made by the governor and not by the state legislature?
Definitely.
Okay.
Firstly. And secondly, I don't like the government telling private companies what they can and can't do. I'm very nervous and reticent about that kind of thing. So I noticed it when it happened.
I don't think this is authoritarianism, Ian. I think this is simply him reinforcing the fact that we have civil rights and that no one should have the right to require someone to get a medical procedure if they don't want it. This has always been the case. This is just him reminding everyone that this is the case, and he's not even necessarily putting anything new into effect. Am I wrong?
Let me ask another question. If a bunch of businesses in Texas started banning black people, and then he issued an executive order saying the banning of black people is prohibited, would you call that authoritarianism?
Yeah.
But there's already a law in the book through a democratic process.
Well,
him saying something that
skin
already
color
exists.
is different than disease. You can suspend habeas corpus in times of great disease. I mean, you maybe can is obviously you can, but
I don't think it's not about disease. It's about vaccination.
Mm-hmm.
If there's nothing in there that prevents a company from saying we'd like you to take a rapid antigen COVID test before you enter our business or
Right.
present a rapid antigen COVID test. We don't want anyone with COVID, but that's not what that's about. This is about vaccination, not disease. And I think there's a dividing line there. If a business wants to say, look, we're only going to have people come in who have tested negative for COVID, I would say, all right, well, if you want to make everyone take an antigen test before they come in or present an antigen test, I guess if you want to do that, that's fine.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between saying you have to give us an antigen test so that we know whether you have COVID or not. We're keeping the COVID out, not you, on the one hand, or on the other hand, say only if you're vaccinated. Because then, I mean, think of the absurdity that comes in. The guy who says, I've tested negative for COVID, I don't have COVID, I can't go in. Another guy says, I tested positive for COVID, but I'm vaxxed. See you
Right.
all there.
And many
There's-
people who do take the vaccine do test positive.
Yeah, so someone with a breakthrough case can go in with COVID and cough all over everywhere because they're vaccinated, and someone who's not sick, doesn't have COVID, and has tested negative can't go in because he's not vaccinated.
Right.
This is not about disease. It's about using the withdrawal of the ability to use services as a cudgel to beat people who aren't getting vaccinated. And that's, I think, a difference.
And I want to break this down, what we're seeing at the federal level with Biden and the Democrats versus Texas. With Joe Biden, on multiple occasions now, he said, the legislature be damned. I will exact executive decree on the eviction moratorium, and now with the OSHA rule. Those things need to go through the Congress. We also have the Supreme Court saying no to him with the eviction moratorium, and him being like, don't care, I'll do it anyway. And he did, and then Democrats cheered for it. Abbott is saying, guys, there are laws in the book saying you can't do this, and I am obligated to enforce those. I am telling you right now, this cannot be done as per existing law.
Florida is
It's a
also doing a
big
similar
difference.
thing. Yeah, Florida is doing a similar thing, saying you can't discriminate against someone. You can't force them to do this, especially if they have religious exemptions. A judge in New York just upheld religious exemptions for healthcare workers. So legalese, right now, this is being decided in the high courts, and a lot of people are siding with you have a right not to comply with this mandate that they're trying to force on you. And this is something that's, imperative. This is something that's important. This is something that provides people liberties and freedoms that historically throughout life they never really had ever. And now they're finally given this ability that's slowly being eradicated, slowly being taken away from them. And people are saying, no, this is just absolutely ridiculous. This is over the top. This is draconian. This is totalitarian. And people trying to stand up against it are not using that same kind of force and energy. They're trying to stop a lot of that intrusion into our personal lives.
Yeah, we have the story from Gothamist, actually. Courts side with New York healthcare workers seeking religious exemptions, reject vaccine appeal by NYC teachers. They report that New York can't stop hospital and nursing home workers from seeking religious exemptions to the state's COVID-19 vaccine mandate, a federal judge ruled Tuesday. Requiring workers to get vaccinated without allowing such exemptions conflicts with long-standing federal protections for religious beliefs. Judge David Hurd of the U.S. District Court of the Northern District of New York wrote in his decision, the policy requiring all hospital, nursing home, and home care staff to get vaccinated against COVID was initially issued under Cuomo. We get the point. Point is, the law already exists and it's clear. You can't do that. It's not authoritarian when we fought long and hard, had elected representatives vote on something. That's literally a constitutional republic process. Joe Biden being like, nah, don't care. Cuomo being like, so what? Don't care. Cuomo, with the law on the book saying you couldn't do this, said, I hereby decree. That's authoritarianism.
Yeah, when you look at the implications of both of these policies, you clearly see one where we have government agents intruding into people's lives, punishing them, taking something away, and issuing fines for not going through another hoop that they literally made up. That hoop is a very important one. It's a very big one, and it has a lot of big implications, because if the government could do this, people could argue based on health policy, they could also do it to obese people and fat people because of the same kind of health guidelines for the greater good of everyone. The government
Bloomberg wants to.
Exactly. Centralized government arguing for the greater good of everyone. It's literally the recipe for disaster all throughout human history, and it's being repeated now by individuals saying, yeah, fighting back against it is futile, it's bad as well. It's not.
Do you guys think that vaccine mandates are unconstitutional across the board?
No.
What's an instance where it's not?
So there have been there are certain circumstances where I think vaccines can be mandated, but what you need to understand is that there's also a scale of acceptable risk. Meaning, if you've got an airborne Ebola with a 50% mortality rate, you're not going to have to worry about anything. People are going to be panicking and begging to be a part of the vaccination program. But we're dealing with COVID, which is serious, and long COVID is serious. And I don't know the exact percentages, but we don't want people to get sick and die. At the same time, the rate for individuals healthy and under the age of 40 is substantially lower. So we're dealing with a nuanced political circumstance. That being said, there are some times, like in the military, for instance, they've mandated tons of vaccines. The difference here with COVID is that it's new. And, I talked about this quite a bit. When you join the military, when you're in basic training, they give you a whole bunch of vaccines. You can require certain vaccines for travel for certain work, right? So when I was traveling to like Venezuela and Egypt, yellow fever vaccination is a requirement because it was an insurance requirement. And this is different. This is the company saying, we're not firing you. We're just telling you, like, if you want to be the guy who gets to go to Venezuela, like, you got a yellow fever shot. And so I did. And I went to the doctor and he gave me the shot. And it was I think the yellow fever one hurt. No, it wasn't the yellow fever one. I don't know. One of them goes in your skin. It sucks.
Yeah, ew.
That I understand.
Subcutaneous.
But if you're going to say a public accommodation, buying a sandwich on a street that you are obligated to pay for, right? We all know how Luke feels about taxation.
I think it's just for employees. It's just for employees?
No, in New York, the mandates are you can't even go inside.
Same in Italy, yeah.
So that's the other thing too. Let's talk about employers. First of all, for a regular person, it shouldn't be allowed. But let's talk about healthcare workers seeking religious exemptions. These hospitals receive public funding. That's my understanding, right? They're on public streets. So you're telling me I have to pay for it, and then you're banning me from using it because of my religion? No, we already have a law saying you can't discriminate on the basis of religion. Now, there's reasonable exemptions to that. Like if you believe in sacrificing goats, they're not going to let you do it in public, like in the middle of the street.
And 50% Ebola death, then damn your religion and take it anyway.
See, the difference there is when we're dealing with issues of like viruses that aren't all identical, people have different expectations for the risks they're facing. With COVID, it is clear that there's a large percentage of people who don't believe the risk warrants a sacrifice of such great loss of freedoms. When it came to the Civil War, people are like, Abraham Lincoln did a good thing, and in fighting the war, slavery needed to be ended. There was a great moral injustice, and so people need. I've talked about this before, that we all are trying to figure out where the line is and what we're willing to accept when we take certain actions. When it comes to an airborne Ebola, like people's insides are being liquefied, we're like, yo, we got to do something about this. And if you're looking at a 20% mortality rate and a vaccine that has like a 0.01% risk factor, most people are going to be like, I'll take it. But when you're dealing with, there's one report saying that the risk factor for a boy under 18, there's one study that came out saying the myocarditis was a higher percentage risk than getting COVID itself.
Some studies showing 8 times higher.
I don't know if that one study is good enough to say definitively. That's why I tell people go talk to a doctor and figure it out. Talk to someone who knows better.
Many doctors, yeah.
Right, and get second opinions. The point is, when it comes to issues of what we're willing to give up our freedoms for, there's some things I think most people recognize. If an alien invasion happened, man, there's a really tough question about what we need to do to rally everyone together to survive. If it's like, a series of crimes and it's in one city, why should the people of New York mandate everyone in the country lose their right to bear arms because of the crimes in their city? And that's basically what's happening.
I think what's happening also is that there's a segment of people that are like, hey, COVID, we look at the numbers, it doesn't look that dangerous as what people are making it out to be. So this seems like it's unconstitutional. You've gone too far. But then there's other people that won't leave their house because they're afraid for their life. And so for Abbott to tell everyone in Texas, you can't mandate it, even though they might feel like afraid for their life, is where I was like, well, there's the authoritarian flag. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying.
But I think you bring up a good point. I think regardless of whether or not there's a severity to the disease, no one should have to give up their freedom for someone else's fear. And that means even if there is an airborne Ebola, you can choose to go get vaccinated for it. And other people who don't, well, then that's their issue, I suppose. And we should be operating on a more, liberty-minded and personal response. We need personal responsibility and liberty, even in the face of something like an airborne Ebola. Look, man, if there was an airborne Ebola, 50% mortality, people's insides were liquefying, I would go to the mountains. Like, I'm not going to go anywhere near
I don't
a
even think
city.
that'll help you escape those kind of things. If you ever watch The Stand, you would know.
Sure.
It's a movie.
In this instance, the risk is there. We don't, people who are over 40 with COVID, people over 40 are at higher risk.
People that are obese.
People who are obese.
Let's talk
30%
real talk here for a
hospitalizations.
second. Yeah.
So what do? Do we just destroy everything? I mean, the economy's in shambles. People are going hungry. People around the world are starving. We're seeing massive ripple effects. It's affecting everything. Unless people want a great reset, I think at a certain point you need to recognize that we need to strip. Look, ultimately, I'll say it like this. You know what? I do not support the vaccine mandates. However, if there were a legislative body that voted and there were long-term studies and then specific exemptions, I'd be like, okay, well, it was done through an electoral process. Having governors and the president just declare by edict, I'm like, no way. I'm absolutely not. When we talk about, vaccines like for MMR at schools and stuff, I'm like, yeah, but these are vaccines that have been around, researched for decades. They've been around for even longer than that. A lot of these vaccines went through very serious and rigorous studies over seriously 20 to 30 years. Now, when it comes to the COVID vaccine, Operation Warp Speed, it's one of the fastest projects ever done. I don't think, personally, a lot of people think that there's the vaccine is dangerous. I don't think that. And I think ultimately my opinion is irrelevant because I'm not a doctor. I just think people's medical choices are their own. If people have a sincere medical, religious belief, like imagine if de Blasio said you have to eat bacon. Like everybody must eat bacon right now. Like you'd have a whole lot of religious people being up in arms like you can't do that. So there's a similar thing there. I'll tell you this though. It is a fair point absolutely to say the lines between what we're willing to accept are different for everybody. And there are some people who are staunchly libertarian. And even if there was an airborne zombie virus would be like, you cannot force me to do anything no matter what. And there would be other people who were like seemingly libertarian before now being like, at this point, lock everyone in their houses. So I think everybody has their line. How much risk you're willing to assume.
It's a gradient scale, and to make laws as a white or a black or a yes or a no or a 1 or a 0, that's tough.
It
However,
should be a personal decision.
But when it comes to what Abbott is saying, like I thought about this. I've said this before. I'm like, I don't like the idea that DeSantis was like nobody can mandate masks, and I'm like, well, that should go through the legislature, right? However, masks are different from the vaccine thing. The mask thing I think is interesting. If somebody wants to require a mask in their store, like, what's your justification for saying they can't require shirts, or they can require shirts? Vaccine's different. It's an irreversible medical procedure. And there are people with medical issues over the fetal cell use, and there are people with with religious issues over the fetal cell use and medical issues that
I take
you
religious.
can't force it.
I have religious problems with it personally. It violates everything I hold dear to my spirit. I will not touch it. I would never in a million years feel right taking a rushed vaccine with the evidence I have, and that is a religion. That is my true belief in what I am. I never defined my religion, but that's how it feels.
So let's put it
It's
this
your
way.
conscience, yeah.
Do you think that you have a right to public accommodation in the Commons?
No.
You don't think so?
Oh, in the Commons? I mean, yeah. Through my tax dollars, yeah.
Right. So do you think then Abbott saying, guys, this guy's paying taxes, you can't kick him out? Is that authoritarianism?
Yeah,
It's not, bro.
Because if I start violating their semblance of normality, and then he's like, you still can't get rid of him.
But this is something you pay for with your taxes.
Yeah.
For them to tell you that you have no access to these spaces would be them stealing from you.
I guess I get access, but it's up to me to maintain dignity to stay there. Like if I pull my pants down, then
Right.
So then I would say this. The question that I have about the vaccine mandate is, if they're going to say, well, you have to have a vaccine mandate, why don't them come along and say, okay, a vaccine or a negative COVID test? And it's the lack of or a negative COVID test that knocks it out for me. Because if you said or a negative COVID test, that would mean that the mandate was really about COVID. The fact that there's no or a negative COVID test means they're just wanting everyone to be vaccinated come hell or high water. So, again, this leaves us in the absurd scenario where someone who has COVID but is vaccinated can go into a restaurant and breathe as much as they want, and someone who can prove that they don't have COVID is kicked out.
Right.
That's the absurdity that the vax mandates and the vax passport, that's what gets me. If you can say, or, I mean, where I live, it's you have to show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test. And the antigen COVID tests are going for like $200 a pop because people want them. But that you can do that. You can say
it's still there's still a problem there in that what they're mandating at some universities like every 3 days.
Oh.
Who's got the time?
No.
To go and do that and spend that money.
Not a college
So then
student.
people just go, fine, screw it, I'll do whatever you say, and that's the problem. So that's a good moral conundrum though. The Ebola thing, like what everyone's rights are be damned if the virus is severe enough, perhaps. And then the issue is, you're right. The Democrats are terrified. They're shaking. And then they really are. We look at the polls. Look at what happened when we invited Hassan Piker on the show, and he was like, I'm totally down, I'll do it. And then he was like, yo, I'm kind of worried about COVID. We have people here all the time who are kind of like, well, we wash our hands, we use hand sanitizer, we take precautions, we clean everything, and we're actually, I think we're actually socially distanced right now.
We are. Yeah, I
we're
think
probably
so.
properly socially distanced at this
That's
table.
right.
And but we have to live our lives, man.
Yeah.
So no disrespect to Hassan, he's genuinely concerned about this, but his concern is several orders of magnitude more than ours. You know what I mean? So then if he's going to vote for what he wants, lockdowns, and we're going to refuse that, I don't know. Maybe the real simple solution is, if you're scared, you stay home.
You know, the beauty of the United States is that each state is an experiment, and this is an opportunity to watch it happen in Texas and see if I'm misusing authoritarianism. I know it's not an extreme authoritative thing what he did, but this is an opportunity to see if what he's doing works.
I mean, the experiment was there in Sweden. It was there in Florida. It was there in many places around the world that said we're not going to be playing ball. There's a lot of other experiments right now happening in places like Norway. Just released a lot of their restrictions, their lockdowns, their mandates, masks, all of that. Their case numbers went down. So there's so many examples of experiments. I always said from the beginning of this, Sweden's going to be the true test of this. Because if you remember, they were saying that Sweden's going to end up in a bloodbath. There's going to be bodies stacking on top of bodies. There's going to be a massacre of unprecedented proportions. Everyone's going to die in Sweden because somehow Sweden's not following along with the programming. They're not going along with what they're told to do by the World Economic Forum, by the World Health Organization, by a lot of these, quote, experts. And look what happened to Sweden. Look at their numbers. Compare their numbers to the states that locked down the most. Compare their numbers to Israel and Singapore, and you will truly have your eyes opened wide by the disparity of numbers.
Actually, I think we have a good story for this topic and what Ian's talking about. Let me pull this up. This is from SFGate. Walgreens is closing 5 San Francisco stores due to organized retail crime. They say they give the addresses. I'm not going to read the addresses, but they're going to close 5 more stores. A company spokesperson confirmed Tuesday, citing ongoing organized retail crime as the reason. Organized retail crime continues to be a challenge facing retailers across San Francisco, and we are not immune to that. Retail theft across our San Francisco stores has continued to increase in the past few months to 5 times our chain average. During this time, to help combat the issue, we increased our investments in security measures in stores across the city to 46 times our chain average in an effort to provide a safe environment. We also heard Target, I believe it was, is going to change their hours because they can't handle all of the theft.
Right.
There's an interesting conundrum here. You've got in New York City, right? AOC, they want to do away with cash bail. I actually agree. I do. I think that if someone is accused of a crime, nonviolent, of course, and they're poor, holding them and demanding cash for them to leave is punishing someone who can't afford it. So we're innocent until proven guilty. You can't hold me in lockup before you've proven anything. I'm innocent. And so there's a really serious problem then. They started releasing repeat offenders who are laughing as they were committing these crimes. You then take a look at what's going on in San Francisco. Yeah, they're overly lax with what's happening. And now you're getting businesses pulling out. So what's the answer? More cops to arrest people, stop and frisk, or the government backs off personal responsibility. How do you solve a problem like this?
Stop disarming people. Stop taking away their ability to defend themselves. You fight back in New York City against someone who's a clear aggressor and attacker, you will be going to jail. That's an absolutely absurd law that creates more victims, creates less personal responsibility, and creates a situation where criminals thrive. Criminals literally have the carte blanche many times in New York City to do whatever they want because there's many instances of police officers just standing back, watching crimes happen, watching people get hurt, and they're saying, well, I'm having an argument with the government, so I'm just not going to do anything.
They'll arrest you in 2 seconds if you got a gun, though.
They'll arrest you in 2 seconds if you have a political sign in the wrong place and you're saying the wrong message as well. So there's been many instances of businesses that got shut down by police officers, by sheriffs, all throughout New York City because they just wanted to have their business open. Meanwhile, Black Lives Matter protest, even on Fox News, cops standing around the corner with their arms, hugging themselves as businesses are being looted, and the cops are just standing there.
So you think like the store owners should be armed and fire?
No, I believe in personal responsibility, and if you're going to be incentivizing people to get away with crimes, you should incentivize people to defend themselves and to be able to not be victims of those crimes.
I guess the theft is a non-violent crime, so it's tough to authorize like a store owner
Depends.
to open
If
fire.
someone's stealing something right in front of you, right out of your hands, I mean, there's an argument
That's
to
different.
be made here.
But out of your store, like if you're a store owner and they were robbing your shelves, it's not really ethical to fire your weapon at them.
So I struggle with this idea that I have to restrict myself to the amount of force that's being used. I mean, I'm not necessarily sure if someone comes into my store and starts taking my things out that I have to say restrict myself to in the amount of force I use to put a stop to that. For example, I don't think it would be fair to say, well, you're a lot bigger than that guy is, so you'll have to find someone smaller to tackle that thief. I don't think that's a good ethical principle. Now, that said, I also don't think that because what you're saying, this is how that's going to turn out. Someone's going to be like stealing a package of lip gloss, and some guy's going to open fire with a shotgun. Part of what happens is
I think that's acceptable. And I'll just say, sorry to interrupt, but if someone is committing a crime in your store, this is one of the things you learn right away when it comes to home defense. You had Dave Chappelle who was like, he did that stand-up bit where he's like, birdshot, buckshot, birdshot, buckshot, and everyone I talk to says absolutely not. Buckshot, 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 because you don't know that person breaking into your house. If you point a weapon at them, they could end you. And if someone is in your store committing a crime and you think it's just lip gloss, I'll be nice to them, and they pull out a revolver or whatever. There's that video went viral of the cop just recently. He's outside taking the guy out of the car, and the dude pulls out a rifle and just starts shooting at him.
Yeah.
So the difficulty is, I think the point you're making is restricting someone's use of force. I certainly think that if somebody is committing a crime, you should be able to use force to stop them, to protect yourself, because you don't know to what extent.
Right.
I mean, crime
tough,
is
though,
rising. It's very tough. There's no universal answer, but I think it's clear that crime is rising where crime is allowed, where prosecutors aren't going after people, where police officers are looking the other way. And I think there's also other societies that are polite societies that they know a lot of people are armed, a lot of people are willing to defend themselves, and there's an effect knowing that, hey, there's a responsibility here that is known by everyone, that if you do cross a certain line, there are ramifications that you will have to pay for those specific lines. And I think the more people are able to assert themselves, the less aggressors they would have against them, and there would be less harm, there would be less violence, there would be less crime, there would be less people hurt overall in the long run than if in the current system that we have right now.
I didn't mean to derail you, though. So
No, the point I'm getting, though, is a big one about institutional trust. If you don't trust the cops to enforce the laws, if you think that the cops are actually going to make things worse, which is a number of what people from, I don't know, Black Lives Matter might argue, that the cops make things worse, when that institutional trust in the prosecutorial system, in the jail system, in the police system degrades and erodes, and people start removing that away, and the ability for cops to enforce the law goes, the incentive structure is such that someone's going to say, look, I'm going to run into this store. I can just go with my duffel bag and go through the jewelry section and just, 5 or 10 of us will just go in and then walk out. And if you're not going to prosecute crimes, say under $1,000 or under $500 because it's not worth it, it incentivizes those crimes because the guy's going to say, well, what are you going to do about it? There's 5 of us.
Exactly.
So what needs to happen is you have to be able to bring about a situation where the police are able to enforce the law without abusing the authority given them to enforce the law. And that's the difficult point, because on the one hand, there's an awful lot of people, and I think I would get some sympathy from Ian with this, to say, man, have you seen how some cops behave when they're enforcing the law, the way that they treat citizens, the way people are treated in prisons? I mean, it's absolutely abhorrent. But if you say, well, because of that, we're going to take away the cops' power to be able to arrest people, and we're going to try and reduce people's engagement with law enforcement under those circumstances by taking away police power, all of a sudden there's now no incentive for somebody not to rob a store. And so I see this as, in large part, as a function of the destruction of the trust in the institutions that are enforcing justice. So now what's happening is that on the one hand, the police were viewed to have gone too far, and in places like San Francisco, Seattle's another one that has a huge problem. People said, no, we don't want the police doing that. We don't want the police. Defund the police, defund the police, defund the police, defund the police, pull the police back. We are now seeing the fruit of those seeds beginning to bloom in the disorder and the chaos.
So I thought it was an interesting question then on levels of acceptable authoritarianism,
Right.
as it were. Police are allowed to stop you, detain you, ask you questions, and they make an arrest based on, if they believe you've committed a crime. And sometimes they're wrong, and innocent people get locked up. And so there's that big challenge. Ben Franklin said it is better that 100 guilty persons escape than 1 innocent person suffer, taking from Blackstone's formulation of 10 guilty persons. So where do we draw the line? As you mentioned, when we say, you know what, the cops are going too far. Okay, now your stores are closing down because they're losing money.
Right.
All right, well then bring the cops back in. Okay, now you're getting reports of cops, injuring people and arresting old women.
Like, would Ben Franklin say it's better that 10,000 guilty people go than 1 innocent suffer? Like, where's his threshold? Because he only said 100.
I'd say 10,000.
10,000?
You know why? If people can't have confidence that in their innocence they will be presumed to be innocent and will have a hope that they will not be falsely accused or imprisoned, then the system has they'll have no confidence in the system at all.
The problem with that is 10,000 people go into Walgreens and rob $500 each and knock the business out, completely destroy the business legally. Well, not legally, but unprosecutorially. So maybe, man.
Challenges, man. Morality is not black and white. It's like I was saying. I talked about this with gender segregation, and we'll probably get into this in the member segment where we get into this very serious story about Loudoun County, which is very, very gross. But the same arguments made today about gender segregation were made about race segregation back in the day. we have men and women have different rooms. Why? Oh, they're biologically different and they should have their own spaces if they want to stay safe. And it's a lot of similar arguments. A lot of people reject it saying, oh, come on, the difference between race is marginal and biology is, between men and women is very, I'm not saying one thing or another about any biology. I'm saying quite literally the arguments. People used to say back in the day that they have racial segregation because they're different. Now we have gender segregation. Men and women have different rooms because they're different. So the same arguments don't fly for the same issues.
Right.
There's different.
Gender's different than race for sure.
There's just different things. We have different opinions about different aspects of our existence. So it's not an easy black and white answer.
There's no easy answer to a lot of these questions. There's always going to be some kind of inequality. There's always going to be some kind of injustice. But in my own personal opinion, when you get rid of the state, you get rid of a lot of harm that could potentially happen. If you want to reduce harm, you get rid of the state. And you leave people on personal responsibility. For you, it's never going to be easy. But at the end of the day, I would argue that less people would be hurt out of that system than they are right now.
I don't think so, because if you remove the state, Walgreens will hire a militarized army to go over to Radio Shack and mow everybody down and take the building.
Ian, you're absolutely wrong. Radio Shack went out of business.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right.
What's a Walmart competitor?
Radio Shack.
Can I ask a question?
Walgreens and Walmart.
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Okay, so we're going to get rid of the state. What's to stop me from saying, well, I'm going to raise my own militia. I'm going to take over a series of land and I'm going to own slaves. I've now just created my own mini state. The things that power abhors.
Yes, it all comes back. It's reciprocal. I understand that.
So my point is, I don't think saying, well, just getting rid of the state solves anything. I mean, so I'm Canadian. We don't have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have peace, order, and good government. I think that good and effective government is necessary, as we've seen by the shoplifting thing. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone benefits from saying, well, we're all going to have our own personal security guards at our own stores to combat theft. That's just not. And I'm going to upset the libertarians in the crowd, but I also don't think that things like city planning can be done in a decentralized way and in a way that's necessarily effective. So planning roads, planning sewage, planning electrical grids, a lot of this has to be centrally planned. It's very difficult to do, if not impossible to do in another way. So I don't think that's a solution. But I do think that once you have a state that is not exercising its power judiciously and fairly, and properly and competently, once you live in what we're in a hyper-real fake simulation or simulacra, as Tim put it, once you get into that kind of a situation, you end up with a scenario where the trust in institutions is broken, and so those very institutions that we create in order to take care of very, very important matters are not trusted, and people pull back from them. They're going to start stepping outside the norms that those institutions upheld and those things held together. So what you end up with a breakdown of not just the trust of the institutions, but that leads up to a cracking of the organizational structure as well.
Yeah, what was that movie with Natalie Portman? It was Annihilation. Is that what it's
yeah,
called?
yeah.
Have you guys seen that one?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So, spoiler alert, it's not that old of a movie, but it's been out for a long enough time. There's like this weird alien bubble. When you go in, DNA is all mixed, and like animals have like plants growing out of it, and creepy stuff's happening. And then in the end, she encounters an alien that looks just like her, and like that's how I imagine like Simulacrum. It's not a copy. It's a cheap imitation of.
Yeah.
So you're saying when the state gets too grotesque, we need to, or maybe not need to, but we would be good to break it down into a era of no state for a moment as we reform a new state, which is inevitable.
Well, I think the Jordan Peterson solution is you have to burn off dead wood.
Haven't you seen the meme of V from V for Vendetta? And he's got a headphone with the microphone on it, and he says, "Your government is doing what? Have you tried turning it off and back on again?"
That's awesome.
Maybe that's,
Let's do it.
Well, let's go to Super Chats, everybody. If you haven't already, my friends, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and go to timcast.com. Become a member, and you'll get access to all of our fun and fancy members-only segments of not just this show, but soon to be Tales from the Inverted World and a couple more shows working on. As you noticed, we're in a new studio, which means there's an other studio, because we're going to be doing more shows. So definitely become a member at Timcast. We'll have a special member segment coming up later, but let's read y'all super chats. All right. The YouTube has this fancy little bar that blocked me from reading your name, but I'll read your chat. Super chat says, "Hey, Tim, you're right about the Globetrotters comparisons. Now let's sneaking stack the Washington Generals with some all-star players and win." It wasn't coming from me. It was, I think someone said it the other day that the Republicans are the Washington Generals and the Democrats are the Harlem Globetrotters. Like that's like a really great, you know. All right. Tactical Chiller says, all are welcome in Springwater Village. When it hits the fan, because nobody wants to see where this globalist plan is heading, I'll be starting a new community out at my place, 160-acre woods in AR with Springwater. P.S. If the IRL caravan needs a place to park in the end, y'all are welcome here.
Very
Well, we're actually building for Damastan. Big news. We're finalizing this the land purchase so that we will have Free Damastan. And it's going to be a big open acreage, fun, recreational, freedom plot of land.
I'd like to build a factory nearby if anyone's interested.
You were
let me
gonna
know.
you were gonna build the Free Dome.
I would love to build the Free Dome. I'm going to build the Free Dome. It's going to be a geodesic dome, ideally built from recovered plastic, broken down with mushrooms, Pestiolopsis microspori, into sugar, mixed with graphene. Then we can 3D print some joints and
Ian will literally live
legs.
in graphene and mushrooms.
Yes.
I want 1,000-yard range.
We'll have that. We do.
Yeah.
We got some paperwork back today. We finalized a lot of it. Tomorrow it will be keys in hand, and there's 1,000-yard range.
Sweet.
Oh yeah, that means the Barrett will have a home.
What's
And-
the underground look like over there?
Dirt.
Wow, that's a lot of
Dirt.
potential, man.
Yeah, excavating's expensive.
We built a sewage system. Is that?
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Chicken City's got a sewer system. It's incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're building a simple sewer system so that when it rains, it flushes the chicken refuse.
Yep.
Just naturally out the back.
I got a tour of Chicken City today. It's coming along swimmingly. It looks
It's amazing. I can't believe how amazing it is. The custom fencing they're building. It's just, you guys got to see this. Go to the Cast Castle on YouTube if you want to watch, some of this. All right, we got a super chat here from, I think it says Horndorf. This kills me. I served in the Navy to protect every American's freedom, just so the Biden terror group can take it away. Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. All right, let's see. Danimal Bungie says, Tim, quote, if you say you're opposed to the vaccine mandate, but you comply with it, you are not opposed to the vaccine mandate. Also, Tim, complies with YouTube censorship. I seem to recall hosting Alex Jones several times, who's been banned. I seem to recall hosting Steve Bannon, who's been banned. I seem to recall hosting Enrique Tarrio, who is smeared by the media over and over again, and he's banned from basically everything. And so there's a big difference between, say, like actively participating in the censorship and actively opposing it. If someone says, I hereby oppose this, now let me go to the store to participate in their vaccine mandate to uphold it, versus me being like, no, if we're going to host these people, we will, and we're going to create a speakeasy over at timcast.com. There's layers. Certainly there's layers. If these restaurants in New York City, I've explained this before, but I'll explain it again. We're saying at the front of their door, I'm sorry, you can't come in unless you're vaccinated, New York mandate. However, if you'd like to be an owner, for $10, I'll give you a share of the company. And as an owner, you can come into the building. You're an owner, right? Or what if they said, but in back, you can do whatever you want? Then I'd say, hey, look, they're actively opposing the vaccine mandates. Instead, what they're doing is they're saying, this is a bad thing. We shouldn't do it. I'm going to go do it.
Do you oppose censorship?
I oppose most forms of censorship.
Exactly. I'm with you. I don't oppose it. I don't like it, but I think that you need judicious censorship.
Is a good question. Do we support censorship of government secrets in a time of war, say with China?
Of course.
Yeah, we don't want China to come and steal all our secrets.
If
We're
they know where the
opposed to
troops
that.
are moving.
Biden's going to give it to him anyway.
It's true.
On a silver
Have it.
platter.
But there's some censorship, like Ian, you mentioned when you were curating minds, and there's gore and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I support the censorship of that kind of stuff. I think I have my own line though, right? And everybody does.
I'm with that with YouTube. Like, I don't love not being able to scream the F word every 10 minutes because that's how I am in real life. But
You don't swear.
I like to. I mean, especially when we're
scream
talking about
every
this
10
stuff, like
minutes.
Joe Biden, I want to. But I enjoy the platform, and I think that I want to, give the platform its due. I have like over 1,500 YouTube videos since 2006. I've never violated the terms intentionally. I go out of my way to make sure that I work with the system I'm working in. And if you don't, then what's the point? I mean, you could obviously go down in a blaze of glory if you need to make a point about it. A lot of people have done that. I'm just not one of those people.
I think
not at this stage.
People are confusing active opposition with passive opposition. Like, they think what I'm saying is that people actually secretly like the vaccine mandates. What I'm saying is they're not opposing it. Like, if you're standing in front of a boulder, you're opposing the boulder's movement. If you step out of the way, you are no longer actively opposing the boulder. You can still be mad the boulder's heading towards the townspeople.
Yes, exactly.
People are confusing what I'm saying. They're as if to imply I'm like, everybody secretly likes it. I'm like, no, I can tell they're distressed, but they're not actively in opposition to it. Let's read some more, though. Snosky TV says, truck driver chicken in. Seeing diesel shortages pop up more and more frequently. The Southwest is stretched thin and truck stops have a lot of things missing from their shelves. Very unnerving. Never seen anything like it. Wow. Dr. Roller Gator says Wokal is not actually a bird and Gator wants a refund.
I bet he's not actually Gator. I'm just saying.
I'm gonna need some backstory on that.
Dr. Roller Gator is one of our esteemed members of the James Lindsay sphere of Twitter. He's a very, very skilled mathematician who's done a lot of really good work on his Substack.
He's a Gator on Twitter.
Yeah, he's serious when he writes in lowercase letters.
Oh, yeah.
Tim too,
wow.
I've noticed.
Sideways 2013 says, hey, Tim, I know you've had this situation several times. Will you have a way to mirror your laptop screen so guests can see it like a TV at the end of the table? Good luck with those studio links. In fact, my friends, as part of the new construction of this studio, we actually literally have that. Now, I don't have a laptop. I have little monitors. But I don't know if you can do a wide shot.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see.
And then
if I
everybody
can
who's
remember.
watching will be able to see that we do, in fact, have a big TV that everyone
There
can
we
look at.
go.
Look at that.
Oh, look
And
at
they can see
that.
all your fancy super chats. And they can see all the chats going by, and they can see the monitor screen. This is because at the end of the show, when we pull up super chats, everybody gets to see it. But normally, it's like the articles that we have. But look at that. Look at that wide shot. We also have an alpaca.
We do, yeah.
Do you have the alpaca
Important
cam?
guest.
It is set up. You can press the alpaca button.
I can't. Oh, hold on. Let me see.
Which one's the alpaca button?
No,
that's-
that's me.
What are you doing?
Oh.
It's not the remote. The alpaca cam is actually one of the cameras
I love that wide shot.
on the stream deck.
Oh, yeah, there we go. There
Just
he
a
is.
delay for me, but I sure like it.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the alpaca.
Yeah, he's got. So we got this from an alpaca farm, and his scarf is made of alpaca hair or whatever.
He's
I don't
wearing
know,
the
fur.
hair of another
wool?
alpaca.
Wool? Is it wool?
It is wool.
He is, in fact. But he himself was made in China.
Give me a 1 in
That's
chat
fine.
if you notice that drill next to Tim.
Oh, yeah.
You can see a drill.
There was a drill next to your left arm.
Yeah,
there.
we're still working on the studio. We're hanging up art, trying to figure things out. We're resin printing a custom
Cameras.
Timcast IRL logo.
Yeah.
Resin printing. How thick is that going to be? That's crazy.
awesome.
It's going to be beautiful, though. All right. Moose Code says, hey, Luke, horse and pony.
Potato.
Close enough.
All right, let's see. Michael Schwobel says the fake set for Biden is entirely so that he can read the lines off a large monitor. I mean, that makes sense.
Yep.
Probably.
Matt Mayer says, Tim, I work in supply chain for a company known for their mac and cheese. For what I see on a daily, our gears are turning, but they're starting to cease. I've been telling people to stock up. We cannot keep up with demand. But is it like great demand, or is it regular demand with no supply? I don't
Hard
know.
to tell.
All I know is I go to the store and there's less and less. Remember I was telling you, like, we went to the store and they had no cream? That made me angry. We had to
How
go to,
dare they?
Yeah, we had to go to a different store. And then they didn't have cream with the good, like, cap. They had the old school one where you have to peel it. And that spoils so quick. Yeah, total bummer.
Someone just said
Rude.
drama llama. Did you guys see that?
Drama llama.
I like that
Oh, he's
one.
an
I like that
alpaca.
name.
Oh,
Lydia wants to steal Veritas's thunder with the alpaca, but, you know.
I
we
do.
can't- Yeah, we can't
maybe
do
we
that.
can mate them
Thinking
one
about
day.
it.
That's a
Retracto?
female. Yeah, isn't Retracto a male?
I don't know.
She looks
Retractors
female.
They're stuffed animals.
Correcto's
Ian.
a
that's true.
female.
Correcto's
Correcto,
female.
Yeah.
is that its name?
She's got a little scarf. Yeah, that's her name.
Correcto. All right, let's see what we got here. Danny Beach says, crap, I just got my ticket for your event. Didn't think. Do I need one for my wife, or can we both get in on one? You will need one for your wife. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the announcement. So over at timcast.com, for everybody who's a $25 member or more, we put up the official event on October 23rd. We are doing a live hangout meet and greet at a bar in West Virginia, and we will be revealing the full details of the location, but it's in the Harpers Ferry area. And Ryan Long and Danny, you guys know Danny. I think his name is pronounced Polish Chuck. Am
Yeah, I think
pronouncing it
so.
wrong? Polish Chuck?
It is a rather Polish name.
So Ryan Long's going to be doing stand-up. Danny will be doing an opening stand-up routine, and they'll be hanging out with us there because they're awesome, good friends of the show, and we wanted to put on a cool event. It is free for all the members. Well, if you're a member at $25 or more, boom, you sign up. It's right there. And then what we're going to do is tomorrow, assuming we haven't sold out, which we probably will, we're then going to open it up to all members, $10 or more. And here's the plan. Day of, there's going to be an open doors for 1 hour for people to show up who have RSVP'd. You get a +1, and we'll check membership at the door. And then you come in, you get your wristband, whatever. And I think we're doing 2 drink tickets. The event is free for members. We are paying for it. And, you know, everything is going to be, you know, free. You just got to show up, bring your body and nothing else. After this, in the rare event that we don't actually sell out and fill up, because it's going to be Ryan Long performing. I think even if it was just Ryan Long, it would sell out. Then we will allow people from the public to come in. So what will probably end up happening is we will have, there's 200 available tickets, which means members and a +1. And then once that fills up, let's say we have 100, 200 people in the venue. If someone says, hey, I can't stick around, I'm leaving, and they leave, then we'll be letting people in. But at that point, if you aren't a member, you got to buy a ticket for the event, which I think will be $25. I'm not entirely sure exactly how that's working out. But that being said, over at timcast.com right now, in the member section is the link. You need to be $25 or more, because that's basically what you got. You got the advantage. That's why we didn't announce it at the beginning of the show, to give everybody, sort of a chance to go through and get those tickets. And then, there we go. So Ryan Long performing is going to be amazing. I'm super excited for this, and we'll all be there, of course. Everybody from the crew, Ian will be there, Lydia will be there, Luke will be there, I will be there, and then everybody else from the Cast Castle, you probably met, will be there as well. It's going to be fun. It's going to be chicken wings, billiards.
Not from our chickens.
And Ian and I are going to be jamming.
Oh, that'll be fun.
And Ryan Long plays drums.
Oh, it's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
he used to
does.
be like
I
a pro
forgot.
drummer.
Yeah, he's
So
good.
maybe we'll see what happens, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
maybe we'll even get some other people to play music. We'll see how it goes.
I'll have the triangle.
Yeah,
Alright.
that's
Cool.
my instrument. Hey.
Well, it is West Virginia, which is an open carry state, constitutional carry. So Luke can play
It's an
the
instrument.
Barrett. Yeah, it's an instrument. That's one way to put it. All right, let's see. Josh Latovsky says, I just have to say that I really like the wider angle shots of you guys. We can see more body language, making it seem like a more in-depth experience for us
Ooh.
viewers. And we also have the wide shot for that purpose.
Yeah,
Although the challenge of the wide shot is the PTZ camera has to manually move and reposition.
it takes
so
a second.
You got to get
yeah.
it queued up.
Yeah.
Got to anticipate.
All right, let's see what we got here. Andrew L says, can you have Alex Jones be part of your team permanently? He is never wrong. Don't you know that? But seriously, can you have him back on members at least? You know what? We talked about this before. I would love if Alex is ever in the neighborhood just to sit down with Ian and just the two of them.
He's the kind of, I would party with him every week. I would love to work with Alex every week, but he's in Texas and we're up by Harper's Ferry.
I feel like if it was just Ian and Alex on one members only thing, it would be kind of like when you point a camera at the TV and it creates that
Infinite
recursive loop indefinitely.
When I look into his eyes.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. John Smith says pilots have to take their their vacation sick pay before they get fired. Otherwise, they lose it. The mass canceled flights are because of this. If that's true, it's to imply that all of these people who are absent are planning on quitting.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, man.
Wow. See, you're a good business owner. That's something these people should be thinking about.
Gavin Campbell says, isn't December 8th or 9th when Congress goes on vacation until the next year? Is that it?
I'm not sure.
Is it? I don't know.
We should look that up.
Let me see.
Brandon Whitley says December 8th is when John Lennon died. Have to celebrate communism.
Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see what we got here. Ryan Berkabil says White House says Harris didn't select actors for video. It was YouTube who did, according to CNN. How do we fight the fact checkers? The Truth in Media Foundation.
Oh.
Yes, we have a nonprofit. So probably won't be active until the beginning of next year because we're waiting for our 501c3 status, but it's going to be a fact-checking organization, which will fact-check fact-checkers.
Huh.
I mean, it's going to be generally fact-checking everybody. And that means fact-checkers are news outlets same as anybody else. And we're going to fact-check the reports, but we're also going to be doing ethics checking. That means if someone falsely frames something, we're going to give them a strike. So when Snopes says, did Luke Rudkowski, eat ice cream on Sunday? Well, it's false. And then it says well, it's true. He did eat ice cream. It wasn't Sunday. And no one said it was. That's how they play that dirty game. What they're doing now. Oh man, I got to take credit for this with Victory Lap, everybody. We had James O'Keefe on the show. James O'Keefe had this big story, Pfizer emails showing that they use fetal tissue in the testing process for the Pfizer vaccine. And I said to James, what's going to happen is they're going to come out and fact check you by saying, a viral story from Veritas is, has people believing that there's fetal cells in vaccines. False. This is fake news. It's not true. There is no fetal tissue in the vaccines. When James's story is actually in the testing process, they used fetal cells.
Technically correct.
It happened exactly as that. exactly as we thought it was going to happen.
Easy to predict.
The media came out and said people are falsely believing there's fetal cells in vaccines due to a story from Project Veritas. They never said Project Veritas claimed it. They said due to a dirty tricks.
Smear merchants.
Yeah, we're gonna fact check them and be like, they lied.
I'm having a hard time finding when Congress goes on vacation.
They go before the 8th, I think.
They get 110 days of vacation a year. It's like travel / vacation.
Lazy
What were you gonna
bums.
say?
No, there's a point here that Tim just touched on that's really, really important that I want to just kind of drag over slowly so that people can get it. When they're checking for the facts, very often what they don't do, I mean, we joke a little bit about they're checking to see, we make sure we use the facts that they like. But there's another thing that they do, and that is when you say such and so because of this and that. You make a point and then you bring up a fact to back it up. Instead of checking the fact, whether or not the statement that you said is actually true, what they do is they check whether or not they think you took the appropriate angle on the fact.
Right.
So so you might say, look, we didn't always have an IRS. We don't need an IRS. The fact check won't say, well, did we always have an IRS? Well, let's go back to 1776. No, there wasn't one true. What they'll say is, half true. Yes, it's true we didn't always have an IRS, but here are some reasons why we do have an IRS. And it's like, that's not what the check was. There's the fact, and then there's the use to which the fact is put, or the thing that you think the fact proves. And rather than checking the fact, they will push back against the angle or the point that you're trying to make with the fact.
Let's play a game. I'll teach y'all how the fact checkers work. Luke, what have you right there on the table?
A big old mess.
Yes.
That object there under your glass, can you raise it up?
It's a sword.
Pick it up.
Weird
Show
one.
everybody on the camera.
You took away my other sword, or I got
He's
this
still
bootleg
mad about
one.
it.
Okay, claim. Luke claims to have held up a sword on Timcast IRL. False. Experts say that a true sword requires sharpened edges and must actually have a connected wooden hilt. This object is a toy and not, in fact, a sword. Luke, false. Or we can say true. The object being held was a simulation. Was a simulacrum of the master sword. From the point is, you can claim whatever you want, and I love the experts say.
Yeah.
Luke claimed to be holding a sword, but we consulted an expert who said that's not a real sword. So Luke lied. He wasn't holding a sword. Okay, well, I'll get an expert who says I'm telling the truth, and then I can claim I was right.
Yeah.
So that's how they play it, huh?
Yeah, it's a replica of a sword.
It's not a sword.
A replica. All right, let's see what we got here. Jeremy L says Gabby Acuna is a new mother in Nevada, and the health system is failing her. Please search for her on GoFundMe, and even if you can't give, please spread the word. We the people can help save her life and help her meet her new son if we work together. Best of luck. All right, let's see. What is this? Ricky L. Hendrick says the armed scholar just reported that SCOTUS will allow Biden to participate in 2A arguments. What? Well, that'll be interesting.
Huh.
The dude can't argue anything. He can barely talk. Of course, they'll just write it down, They'll write down something for him, and then he'll read it. Molan Lobby says, regarding New York nurse firings and replacing with National Guard. 1. Most already do that as civilian jobs, so pulling from other hospitals. Number of health workers needed in NYC alone is half of entire NYC. NG manpower.
Guard?
National Guard manpower. 3. New York State doesn't accept the Army medic cert. Interesting. Oh, here's an important one. It's Me says, let's go, Brandon.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
That's very important.
I heard
Let's
that
go,
somewhere
Brandon.
before.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Did you see that kid say it on the interview?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
That
was
was
real
amazing.
awkward.
Yeah.
Let's go, Brandon.
Someone super chat. I don't know if you came across it. That to look up Kaiser Permanente hit by strike votes in California, Oregon, and I looked it up. And according to this is GV Wire, I think it was AP. More than 24,000 nurses and other healthcare workers at Kaiser Permanente in California and Oregon have overwhelmingly authorized a strike, threatening to walk
Whoa.
out over
Awesome.
pay and working conditions strained by the
Sure.
coronavirus.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Interesting.
I called it the cascade failure. As work conditions deteriorate, people quit. As people quit, more work conditions deteriorate, causing more people to quit. It's a
Yeah,
downward
it's
spiral.
dominoes, Yeah.
The back end of the bell curve. We went up.
Oh, the
we had
House
that
of
peak, and
Cards. That's what the yeah.
It was fun while it
Wow.
lasted, guys.
It's
Been a
still
good
fun.
run.
I hope everybody is prepared and they know how to raise chickens.
And don't need medical care.
We got first aid kits Ian was drinking aloe vera the other day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
last
so-
night I gave some to the guests. Everyone was
You were
pleased.
literally drinking aloe.
Yeah, the
It
inner
tastes good,
fillet.
right?
Don't drink the leaf. It's great. It's like
Don't
yogurt.
Drink the
Yeah.
leaf.
What is it? The herb of life or something is what the Egyptians used to call it.
Interesting. Full of water.
Weird.
The flower of life, something like that.
All right, let's see. What is this? What did someone say? Next Gen says you guys should jump on Pop Network when it launches on the 20th of October. Decentralized YouTube, Twitch, and the ETH blockchain. Interesting. We'll look into it.
What was the essence of immortality? Yeah,
Essence
the
of
Egyptians
immortality.
revered aloe. Drink aloe. It's cheap. Get it while you can. And
Grow it
grows
yourself.
like a weed, apparently.
Grow it yourself.
Trek God says it is not authoritarianism when DeSantis says no mask mandates. It is DeSantis implementing his authority, the authority that the people of Florida gave him. That's an interesting argument, too. I don't completely agree with, but I see the point. If people say, I hereby grant you the authority to act in this way under these rules, then them acting that way isn't necessarily authoritarianism if they were voted into power as an executive to do these things. However, I don't completely agree with it, but I understand the argument. There is certain things we don't expect them to do, and the mask mandate, I don't agree with DeSantis being able to mandate businesses don't allow masks. What if he came out and said, no one can wear shirts? Like, no one can mandate shirts. No, for real.
Free the nipple.
Yeah, free the nipple. Why should they mandate shirts?
I guess so.
Yeah.
You know, like shirts are different. I mean, masks are different. I don't prefer to wear one at a store. I'll wear one if I have to. We went to a micro center. We had to wear masks, and I'm like, oh, whatever, man. I will tell you this though. I have this watch, and it does a blood oxygen level check. And so after about 20 minutes, I decided to check, and it was at 95%. And I was like, huh. So then I waited another 10 minutes, and then I checked again. It was at 93%. And then I was like, huh. And then I checked again, and then it said 89, and it said, warning, consult a doctor. Your oxygen levels are getting dangerously low. And I was like, that's weird. And I just lifted the mask up and took a deep breath. And then went back to normal. I don't know. I was getting yawny. I kept yawning.
that
breathing
makes
all
you
that carbon
sleepy.
dioxide.
Yeah, being
I was,
you'll be
yeah.
sleepy.
And so then I checked, and I was wearing one. I don't know. Don't look at me. I'm not a doctor.
Somebody-
All I know is my watch
That's
said it. And
I
I thought it
believe
was
someone
weird.
had passed out trying to run a race with a mask on.
Yes.
you know?
yeah,
a
that
young woman.
student. Yeah.
But people need to realize too, some of these masks are like really thick, and some are really not thick at all.
Yeah.
You know, so you could be having something that's like super thin. People don't check, which is I just think is ridiculous. It's like whatever. I don't
One
even
of
know
the
what they're
things
talking
I've
about.
asked and I've wondered about mask mandates is how much of the mask mandate is because the mask is being employed properly and correctly in an environment which it makes a difference, and how much of it is because it makes people feel safe.
To feel safe. I was out in LA and I had the N95 mask that wasn't vented, so everything I was breathing out was not being filtered. Basically, if I had coronavirus, I was breathing it out through the mask into their face, but they didn't know, so they didn't care. They thought it was a mask, so they were happy. I go into the store, no one said anything about it. As far as they were concerned, I was masked up, even though the mask wasn't working
See
properly.
you wearing a mask. That's all that matters.
Whoa.
Oh boy.
Alec Norgard says, I work at my school's dining hall. Ketchup, mayo, mustard, and barbecue out for weeks.
Whoa.
That's it. That's the
Mayo?
apocalypse.
Yeah,
Oh
a couple of
my
weeks ago, there was a
gosh.
shortage of ketchup packets up in the Northeast, all over New Hampshire. People couldn't get small ketchup
Dang,
packets.
what
Should
the
we just get like
heck?
40 pounds of ground mustard seed?
How about ketchup?
I'm not that big a fan of mustard to want to do
I think we should
Mayo
buy
and
another
ketchup.
refrigerator and maybe an ice machine.
We have a deep,
That's also because I want to do cold plunges. But ice machines also would be a smart.
we got a
smart
deep,
Yeah.
a deep freezer, and vacuum sealed farm meat, deep frozen, can last up to 3 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can.
Dude, so we got a decent
We need
amount.
more freezers.
We need a
Yeah.
vacuum sealer.
Good luck getting
Yeah,
them.
and that
though.
requires electricity.
I think we have
Yeah.
an ice machine in the house.
We do?
Yeah,
We do?
I'll point you towards it. It's about this big.
Okay.
we're getting solar panels installed in big Tesla batteries, so that even in storms or whatever, we'll have 4 days of electricity. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And then we'll ration it off, and no video games.
I think that the supply line thing is a bigger deal than maybe that we're making it out to be. It's not just a lack of goods, but I think that's kind of one of the things that shows people what happens when competence steps aside. That it's now, there's literally things in my grocery store that I can't get because of decisions that are being made at a very high level that are affecting supply chains.
Right.
It's gonna get scary.
Centralization.
I'm gonna read one more. Kyle Abrams says, Tim, I purchased a $25 membership and it says I only purchased $10. How do I fix that? Okay. Email members. Is it members at timcast.com?
Yes, I imagine for member stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but it could be something else. I don't know. On the website, and I apologize for the errors, guys. Sometimes they might happen, but send those emails and we'll make sure somebody gets to them as soon as possible and make sure you guys get squared away. And if you have any issues, Just we'll make sure we work through it and figure it out. And I will say, we'll make sure everybody is fairly taken care of. If you emailed tonight saying you're having issues, then we're gonna put you in. Like if you were trying to get a ticket but you couldn't get in and you emailed us about it, we're gonna make sure that you guys
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we're not gonna leave you hanging, because the whole point is we've been trying to do events since March, and we got red taped up. So we decided, you know what, we can't just not do it. We need to do something, and let's just book a venue and do it. And there's a really fun venue we found, and they're like, yeah, cool, do whatever, and it's gonna be free. If you're a member and you RSVP, just show up. No, and then I mentioned. So I'll just do it one more time real quick for those that didn't hear. It's gonna be in the Harpers Ferry area. Go to timcast.com. If you're a $25 member, you will see it there. And you can bring a +1. So if you're a member, then you bring one more person with you. We're going to check memberships at the door. Tomorrow, assuming we don't sell out, it will then open up for all $10 members to RSVP. So if you want to, if you think you can wait for it, by all means you can. But I really do think we only have 200 tickets. And then on the day of, as people are leaving, we'll allow members of the public to come in after they purchase a ticket or something like that. We got to figure out the ticket laws and how that works. It's not so easy just to have an event. But Ryan Long is going to be performing along with his with Danny Polishchuk, who is in all of his videos. You guys probably know them from their videos. We're huge fans. We're good friends, and we're really excited. The first person I thought of was like, we got to get Ryan to come out and do stand up for everybody. That'd be so amazing. So that's what we're going to be doing. But I will now wind things down. So thank you all so much for hanging out. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and go to timcast.com. Also, because we're going to have a member segment coming up at about 11 or so p.m. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally everywhere. Follow me on Instagram at Timcast. Wokal, did you want to shout anything out?
I just want to say, like, subscribe, follow the Center for Renewing America on Twitter. I'm Wokal Distance on Twitter at Wokal_distance, and I talk about postmodernism and critical theory, critical race theory, all that kind of stuff. If you're looking for an in to understand that world, hopefully I can help.
Right on.
It was weird being on the show without headphones, so I apologize if I was more discombobulated as I usually am sometimes. But anyway, the shirt that I have on is a Venn diagram of our dystopia, and it highlights Brave New World, 1984, and Fahrenheit 451. And if you like the shirt and it resonates with you, you could get one exclusively on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. And because of your purchases, I'm here, so thanks for having me.
You guys are really, really awesome. Thanks for coming. Wokal, the man. You out-hippied me by far. You look fantastic. The beard
love
is
it.
great.
That's like
the headband's
hippie
next
level
level.
100, hippie level 10.
Yes.
These are crystals.
He
These
taught
are
me
crystals.
everything I know.
Yeah. From my crystal to yours, my man. I'll catch you guys later.
Thank you guys all very much for tuning in. I'm very excited for our event and for having Ryan Long on. Thank you guys for bearing with me and my ridiculous camera switches as I'm getting used to all of this stuff. You guys may follow me on Twitter at Sarah Patchlitz.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody. We will see you all over at timcast.com in the member segments, and we'll see you then.
Bye, guys.